This story begins with a secret. At one moment, the life of the main character changed dramatically. Okay, now it's time to clean up. Luna remembers what was agreed upon with her. After the game, the little girl has to clean up. The charming girl nodded contentedly and immediately began to carefully put her toys in their places. Lunushka is such a good girl. A warm hand gently stroked the baby's hair. Luna did a great job with the cleaning. She can do everything. Gold status notification, Luna Hedden, 7 years old, satisfaction scores at their highest. But the characteristics of stress and despondency have finally become minimal. That's great. Today the little one has improved her concentration score even more. The little one lay down in her crib, covered herself with a fluffy blanket, and immediately began to snore sweetly. What a delight. And here is Mrs. Rara. The girl should have come up to the Countess herself and greeted her first. If it were a question of a formal greeting, the Countess should have anticipated her. My lady could not help expressing her gratitude to Miss Rara. Since her arrival, little Luna has changed so much, Miss Rara disagrees. The girl was always sweet and wonderful. The Countess wrapped her arms around the girl's hand. She would like to offer her to stay for another year. My lady would increase her salary, of course. From the girl's expression, the lady immediately understood her answer. Lady Rara was very grateful for such warm words and a generous offer, but she was forced to refuse. The Countess sighed heavily and smiled. She remembered that Miss Rara had said that she needed to leave for the capital. That's right. The main character hugged the book to herself. Urgent matters await the girl in the capital. The coachman will take the lady to the capital. The journey will not be long, so the main character's name is Ryra Irene Brussels. Ryra is the only surviving heir to a fallen noble family, and she is also a teacher with enough love in her heart for every child. However, like any main character, the girl has a secret that no one in this world knows about. In fact, the girl is not from this dimension. She was born and raised in the real world. Her real name is Shira Bunaro. She was a very ordinary girl, graduated from the Faculty of Education. And then she worked in a children's center, but one day after waking up, everything suddenly changed. Shira ran to the mirror and couldn't believe her eyes. She found herself in someone else's body, the body of Ryra Irene Brussels. The new world was very different from the one she was used to. More than 10 years had passed since she was thrown into an unfamiliar place about which she knew nothing. And the girl still hasn't gotten used to this hair color. She needs to save up money as soon as possible to meet the magician. Mages are said to have transcendental powers. They can travel through time and space, and Ryra is supposed to meet one of them. The magician can be found in the Magic Tower, located in the very heart of the empire, its capital. And this is the only way to return to South Korea, so Ryra will do everything possible and impossible to return to her native world. This world never ceases to amaze the main character and teaches her something new every time, but fortunately she manages to adapt. Lady Rara thanked Sir James for his assistance. The coachman would call for the lady tomorrow morning. She would be grateful. The main character was immediately called out upon arrival, so this is Mrs. Ryra Irene Brussels. That's exactly it. Let the lady sit down quickly. The young man, of course, should introduce himself. His name is Vincent, Chief Secretary of the Imperial Department, and he has come by order of His Excellency to meet with Lady Ryra. His Highness asked me to convey that he has not forgotten the hard work and loyalty of the Baron, who dedicated himself to the Empire, and his heiress is sincerely glad to hear this. Why did the Chief Secretary even start talking about this? Maybe he wants to offer some kind of reward on behalf of His Majesty. My lord needs to ask literally a couple of questions. This year, the lady will be 22 years old, and she is still not married. And what has started, well, that's right. The Chief Secretary thanks the lady for her honesty, but Ryra doesn't like his smile. Sir Vincent handed the girl an envelope. It was a gift from His Majesty. What was inside? There was even an imperial seal. There might be some immodest check inside or some solid property in the capital. The main character quickly unfolded the envelope. A marriage contract. What the hell? What the hell is this? In territorial wars that lasted more than 10 years, the Rubedium Empire emerged victorious. Duke Davian Elliot Scarlet, known as His Imperial Highness's loyal subordinate, made a huge contribution to this significant victory. And what is the point of all this excursion into the history of the Empire? Well, the whole point is that His Excellency wants to conclude a marriage between Duke Davian and Lady Brussels. And this is a marriage contract of young people. Wait, what did he say? Why such a sudden decision? So gift, but it can be exchanged for land. The heiress of a noble family heard everything correctly. This is a very generous offer from His Majesty, but Ryra is already 22 years old. The main character is no longer of the right age for marriage, and the bride herself is not suitable for such a great man in this world. People get married before they reach adulthood. The young lady doesn't have to worry about that, as her handsome fiancé is turning 23 this year. The chief secretary is confident that a wedding with Duke Davian will bring great benefit to Lady Brussels. The great warrior is pious, noble, wise, and he is also the hereditary owner of the Magic Tower. At the present time, my Lord Davian holds the position of head of the Ministry of Magic, which means he is the successor. Duke Scarlet is an exceptionally outstanding person. Without his battle magic, the war would never have ended. Not just a magician, but the heir to a magic tower with incredible abilities. If anyone knows how to return her to Korea, it's Davian Scarlet. The main character took a deep breath, and she can see her future groom in person. A strong hand squeezed a crystal glass of whiskey, this toast to the great magician of the Robedium Empire. Let the glorious Duke Davian accept my sincere congratulations. The young man is finally getting married. Duke Davian Elliot Scarlet looked away, but the bride's consent had not yet been received. So far, only a meeting has been planned. The Brussels family was once famous for its achievements in the East, but compared to Duke Davian, they are not even close. The head of the family was a brave knight and sacrificed his life for the empire. It is a family with a reputation, but without much influence, understandably. If this marriage is so necessary to His Majesty, then my Lord Scarlet does not dare to object. But this is still not an order, but it looks exactly like that. The straightforwardness of the young head of the Ministry of Magic is a good thing, but not always appropriate. And could the heir of the Magic Tower ask his lordship something? Well, of course, which interests my Lord Davian. At the moment, only one thing, the daughter of the Brussels family, does she know about the younger brother of the Duke of Scarlet. The main character, not suspecting anything, stretched out into a serene smile, and that was the way out. His Majesty did not answer and only looked away from his interlocutor. His silence was more eloquent than any words. Duke Davian understands everything. In that case, it is worth postponing the banquet for another time. The main character got tired and looked out the window. This story will end badly. The girl looked around in fascination. There it was, the heart of the great empire of Robedium. The welcoming rays of the sun greeted the main character in the capital. Even the weather here greets her warmly. It must be a good sign. Well, here they are. The chief secretary hopes that nothing happened to Lady Brussels on the way. Thanks to the carriage provided by Sir Vincent, the train passed pleasantly and safely. The chief secretary appreciates the lady's kindness. Well then, it's time for them to go. Let Miss Rara follow Mr. Vincent. The luxury of the castle was dazzling right from the threshold. You couldn't take your eyes off it. What beauty, what it's like to live in such a place. Get up every morning and walk down these marble stairs, admiring the intricate patterns on the walls. As expected of the residents of the great heir of the Magic Tower, this must be Milady Ryra's first time in such a place. Do such places still exist in the world? The girl had never even been to the capital before that day. Here, a young man unfamiliar to Ryra noticed the two guests the chief secretary had already arrived. This is Mr. Aaron, and where is Duke Scarlet? My lord should soon return to the castle. He went to his lordship on urgent business. By the way, Mr. Aaron is a magician from the ministry. The young man is very pleased to meet the lady. From now on, this man will be my lady's escort. Let her not be shy about calling him by name, her hand. What a cutie this magician is. Well, Vincent probably has a lot of important things to do. Let him go already. Aaron will take care of everything. Just let him not blab too much. Welcome to the magic department. This building is newly built. That's why it looks so shiny. Wait a minute. Miss Ryra herself is not from the capital. That's true. She is here for the first time today. Ryra is from the Duchy of Brussels. Aaron doesn't really know much about all these noble families. The lady knows about the chaos that has reigned in the Department of Magic over the past few years, and the Department of Magic itself was created only recently. Yeah, the Department of Magic is about to celebrate its first anniversary, and that's causing a lot of problems. Ryra lived in the countryside. News rarely reaches there. She doesn't understand much about the capital's affairs. That's understandable. The creation of the Department of Magic was repeatedly postponed due to opposition from the temple. Last year, thanks to the efforts of Duke Davian, everything finally worked out as expected from such an incredible man. And why did the temple oppose it at all? That means the lady doesn't know this either. Magic undermines the influence of the temple. This is why, since ancient times, magicians and temple priests have been almost sworn enemies. The young lady can imagine that in their days, the use of magic is still considered devilry due to the fault of the priests. Lady Rhaera heard that the head of the Ministry of Magic is also the heir to the Magic Tower. This seems to mean that the Grand Duke has even more responsibilities, but this is not entirely true. The magician awkwardly scratched the back of his head and approached the Duke's future bride. 2 years ago, Milord Davian was expelled from the Magic Tower. Then a metallic and dispassionate voice rang out, and Aaron immediately jumped up on the spot like a frightened cat. Or to be more precise, Duke Scarlet lost his status, and Mr. Davian has been standing there for a long time. The protagonist leaned forward, so the Duke had no dual roles or responsibilities. It didn't work out very well. The magician here wasn't gossiping about his lordship at all. Lady Rhaera is glad to welcome my lord. The girl's cheeks immediately flushed with a treacherous blush. The main character was simply inhumanly handsome. Hair the color of a silver moon, dark eyes, skin as if cast from marble, facial features as if carved by the greatest master. Well, it looks like it's time for Sir Aaron to go. Let the young people get acquainted, and the magician should go and cut his tongue. The main characters spent a few moments in a short conversation. Rhaera stared at the wall in shock. What the? So the future bride received all the answers to the questions she so wanted to ask. The lady asks for forgiveness. It was inappropriate of her to ask without knowing all the circumstances. There is no need to apologize. After all, trying to be curious about something new is not some kind of crime. Besides, there was nothing secret or hidden in this information for a long time now, so Duke Davian was not burdened by her questions at all. The future groom is interested to know from Lady Brussels what His Majesty actually told her. Well, he simply sent her the marriage contract through the chief secretary. There was a deafening silence in the room, and that was all. Was there any information about the head of the Ministry of Magic? Not at all. The envelope simply contained a proposal for their union. Rhaera only learned that Duke Davian was 23 years old, and she, by the way, was 22. And the chief secretary also talked about how Milord Scarlet led the Empire to victory in the war. In addition, the girl was immediately warned about the fantastic beauty of the hero of the Empire. Oh, why the hell did Rhaera blurt that out? She actually said it out loud just now. The gloomy eyes carefully studied their interlocutor, wondering why the young man had been silent for so long. Is it really that bad that Lady Brussels sees their relationship in romantic terms? Well, if my lady is not inclined to this, then it's okay. They will return to their main topic, their marriage. Duke Davian must ask whether the girl is here because she could not refuse his lordship, or because she sincerely wants to marry the young man. Rhaera would be lying if she said she didn't feel pressure from His Highness, but she wasn't here just because of orders. In that case, what was the reason for Lady Brussels wanting to marry him? Rhaera swallowed nervously. If the chosen one had wealth and power in her head, she would not be tormented by such confusion. Well, this is a bad thing. The main character is also unusually perceptive. Tricks won't get you away with this, so what's the reason? Well, the girl definitely won't have another chance. She needs to tell the head of the Ministry of Magic everything as it is. The bride-to-be wanted to meet because of one request, but she cannot address Davian as a duke. Before my eyes again I see the cold hospital room, the sound of the cardiogram, the sticky feeling of fear. This memory gave the heroine determination. Duke Scarlet is needed by Rhaera as a magician. Very interesting, so the girl doesn't need Lord Davian, but only his magical potential. The main character rose from his seat. He would listen to the request later, but the future wife should know. The girl immediately swallowed nervously. What would the Grand Duke say now? This was clearly something serious. The future groom has a younger brother, and the only thing is that the brother is 16 years younger than Mr. Davian. Rhaera immediately beamed and clapped her hands. It was so cute. She just adores kids. In fact, the bride even worked with babies, so they will get along well. Davian's younger brother is possessed by a demon. What did he say? In this world there is such a thing, and did they call an exorcist or whatever they do in such cases? Maybe the boy is just going through puberty, during which time children can be very scary and ferocious. On the desk lay a whole stack of various resumes listing skills and experience gained. It's so hard for a teacher to find work in the capital, it won't work. The sunny streets of the city were filled with the joyful cries and laughter of children. Come on, let your friend kick the ball harder. The main character involuntarily gazed at the childish serenity. The Duke's younger brother was branded a demon by one of the servants, and the boy is now imprisoned in the temple. So by marrying Milord Davian, the girl will link her name with a family in whose veins flows the blood of the devil. Surely this is the pure truth, because only this explains why such a handsome young man is still single. And why was the great hero of the Empire given such a depressing option as a wife? A familiar female voice called out to Ryra. Daisy Mo Rudin, former teacher. Wow, it's been so long since she's seen Ryra. The next day, it's Daisy's son, Rudd Rudin Jr. He looks so much like his father. His mother was a home teacher, and his father teaches philosophy. Apparently, the child inherited his mother's gentle nature, and Rudd is also afraid of the dark. Since the day Ryra appeared in this world, she has had the ability to see the state of other people, and children enter a special area in her mind. And she can easily track their condition, something like a journal with reports. At the first meeting, only the basic condition, mood or well-being, is available. At the right moment, the girl immediately reads all the information she needs. By the way, is it worth talking to a former colleague about Ryra's upcoming wedding? The girl would like to tell her friend one thing. If Ryra is looking for a job, then it is difficult in the capital. So, my friend will have to wait. Not at all. Ryra is getting married. What? So, suddenly, just a year ago, my friend assured me that she didn't want to know any men at all. And who became her chosen one? Who is the lucky one who captured the heart of her dear Ryra? Grand Duke Davian Scarlet, once again, Duke Davian Scarlet. Yes, that's him. The house of the former home teacher shook from the scream of the owner. What? When did all this happen? How could something like this even happen? Daisy needs to be quieter or she'll wake up her baby. Let her friend sit down and they can talk it over. Daisy is just so shocked. She congratulates Ryra on her imminent marriage. She will become the first duchess among all the girls' friends. They are still friends. After marriage, Ryra won't go anywhere. Of course not. Where do such thoughts come from? And the future bride has definitely thought everything through and is confident in her decision. It would be foolish to deny that the Grand Duke is not the most handsome man in the capital, but still. Daisy is worried about her friend. The court, noble society can be very cruel to Ryra. And by the way, what about Duke Davian's younger brother, who is now imprisoned in the temple? Daisy is completely confused. Her friend has to think it over again. But whatever her decision, Daisy only wishes for her happiness. A kind person like Ryra should become a high-ranking official. And to illuminate everything around with her light and warmth, making the world a better place. But there is nothing special about Ryra. She is the bride of Lord Scarlet himself, which is already incredible. And the friend should also be on guard. A huge number of young ladies are thirsting for the attention of her future husband. The future newlyweds are not in such a relationship. What does this mean? There is no romantic shade in their interaction, although it is difficult to resist it. Meanwhile, the main character's ears were itching mercilessly. Apparently someone was gossiping about him. The girl froze in front of the main entrance of the luxurious residence, consumed by doubts and fears. Maybe Ryra made a hasty choice. Maybe she doesn't fully understand what she's getting into now. Should she return, but if the girl leaves now, she simply won't have another chance to meet and talk to the magician. But she has no idea what will await her behind these gates, what it will cost her. Why is Milady Ryra Brussels sitting at the gate? Oh, that didn't work out very well. The girl immediately jumped to her feet. She didn't even hear the steps of her future husband. How he ended up here. Wait a minute, did my Lord Scarlet just teleport here using magic? Teleportation is only allowed for certain purposes. According to Imperial Law, Article 3, Section 15, permission from the Magic Directorate is also required. The use of teleportation magic requires 3 days' notice, that's clear. The main character is so unusual, but so alluring. You just want to get under his skin and find out what he's really like. Duke Davian assumes that his bride must have learned something about his younger brother since she came here. In general, Ryra met her old friend in the capital and asked her about things that she didn't know, of course. By the way, before Miss Brussels, Duke Davian had 5 marriage proposals, but all of them were rejected. His Majesty looked into the matter and said that the total number of proposals was much higher. The 5 were only those who truly matched Davian. The handsome Duke thought that his future wife should know about this, but she was not so sure. Duke Scarlet is so frank with the girl. Mr. Vincent never mentioned anything like that. To be honest, His Majesty's Chief Secretary only mentioned my Lord Scarlet's age. Sir Vincent didn't say another word. The secretary just didn't want to cause trouble. And what this is supposed to mean, it is now Miss Brussels' turn to speak. The main character would like to know what exactly the girl needs from Davian as a magician. What is all this for? Davian now understood everything correctly. Milady needs to move to a completely different world with a different time and space. He has not forgotten anything. It's impossible now, but in 3 years everything could change if Lady Ryra has a clear idea of the world she wants to enter. Well, his real existence of course means there is a chance. The young Duke cannot guarantee this, but anything is possible. In 3 years, the magical flow will reach its peak. That's how it is. The Magi call it the day of the blood moon. It sounds ominous. The moon eclipses the sun, and it is the best time to interfere with the space-time matter. All those who have experienced such teleportation traveled during a blood moon. This is simply excellent news. This chance is definitely worth any effort and difficulties. So the girl is ready to make a deal without even thinking. Just a minute. But when the future Mrs. Scarlet returns to the real world, the Duke will lose his wife. Why didn't the heroine think of this before Duke Davion would never agree? So if they are going to get married, then only on condition that their marriage lasts 3 years, which His Majesty will need 3 years to strengthen the family's position, so they will live as a married couple for only 3 years. And during this time, my Lord Scarlet will try to do everything to fulfill the lady's wish. It all sounds like a dream, so what if Miss Brussels says she will marry Mr. Davion? And this handsome guy still asks her, well, of course, yes. The main character extended his hand to his bride. The story of the girl from the real world has just begun. No matter how many times the heroine looks at this castle, each time it seems incredible. Now is not the time to be afraid. Ryra has already made her decision and voiced it. The first step towards returning home has been taken. All that remains is to stay on track. The future wife of Duke Davion was immediately met by the butler. Welcome to the Scarlet family estate. The butler's name is William. From now on, he will also serve Mrs. Brussels. You can just call him Will. The girl greeted the butler. From now on, she would be in his care. It was not proper for a future duchess to speak like that to an ordinary servant. There is no need to speak so formally. The girl never had servants, it's all so strange. The future Duchess Scarlet will very soon get used to the new house and the people in it. Let her follow the butler. The man led the girl into the bedroom. It was so spacious, light, and luxurious. Ryra couldn't take her eyes off it. All the furniture was decorated with gold, covered with expensive fabrics. It was crazy. And this is definitely a room. Exactly like that. This is where the future Duchess will live. The girl is even afraid to breathe here. Everything here is so magnificent. It is better for her not to touch anything here. Suddenly, after the expiration of the marriage contract, the girl will be presented with a bill for damaged property, like in a hotel. And in which room does the head of the duchy himself live? The main bedroom is in the middle of the opposite corridor. His lordship's office is at the very end. Milady wants a bedroom closer to her future husband. No, she just asked. The gentleman mentioned that he would like to speak with his fiancée this evening. The lady will be free, of course. If Miss needs anything, there are bell ropes hung all over the mansion, so Lady Ryra should feel free to use them. This is a system for calling service personnel. The girl really felt like she was in a 5-star hotel. By the way, the butler can tell you something about my Lord Scarlet, what kind of person he is. The gentleman is able to achieve everything he wants with his own efforts. There is no task that he cannot handle. But the girl wasn't hiring Davion for work. She had something more personal in mind. The gentleman had been like that since childhood. The brilliant gentleman worked all his life, and most likely, this is precisely why he is so alone. Something clicked inside the heroine. The more she gets to know this guy, the more she is drawn to him. She needs to focus on her main goal. In 3 years, her handsome fiancé will wave goodbye to her, and she will be in her own world. The girl knocked on the door of the Duke's private office. His Grace wanted to see Lady Brussels. The bride is happy with everything. My lord is joking or something. Even the wildest dream looks dull in comparison to this estate. And the dinner was simply amazing. The chef is truly incredibly talented. That's great, and Mr. Scarlet himself had already had dinner, but why is the girl asking him about this? The gloomy eyes peered closely into the face of their interlocutor. Well that? The main character's question clearly confused the girl, and here's what to tell her now. Maybe it's all about her politeness or her Korean roots, but in reality, Ryra is just worried about this young man. It was just that my lord had finished his work rather late, and so she was worried that she had disturbed his meal. Was the future Duchess really that worried about this? Well, yes. The main character was tired and exhaled. Usually the young man skips the evening meal. The lady should not worry about it. This guy is becoming more and more mysterious every time. It's annoying because Ryra loves puzzles so much. She will definitely need to get to the bottom of him. The Duke of Scarlet wished to discuss some matters before the upcoming wedding. Let my lady look at this document. The marriage between Davian Elliot Scarlett and Ryra Irene Brussels will last a maximum of 3 years, starting from their wedding day. The marriage contract will be terminated once both parties have achieved their goals. In case the execution of the contract becomes impossible, the term can be extended by mutual agreement, romantic. The period when the red moon notices the sun can be estimated approximately, but it is impossible to determine the exact date, so the contract may last a little more than 3 years. And what is this both parties must respect each other's privacy? The point marked important. Any actions that may lead to a complaint to the temple are prohibited. And what does this mean? Lady Ryra is free to date others during their marriage? What a nightmare. But any illegitimate children will create difficulties with the church, so she shouldn't. Wait, the girl got it. Ryra knew that it was common for nobles to have mistresses, but hearing this from her future husband was somehow awkward. Wait a minute, so this fantastic young man will also have mistresses. And why does this fact already anger the heroine so much? They are not even married yet. Does Lady Brussels see their relationship in romantic terms? And what kind of talk is going on? The future Duchess's head began to fill with images of Davion enjoying his mistresses. Ugh, you can remove this point. In addition, the head of the duchy has one request for his future wife. Although the contract period has not yet begun, there is something that His Majesty desires, so the Duke is forced to ask her for cooperation. The Emperor wants people to believe that he was not involved in the marriage of the young people. At least that's how it should look, which means his lordship is trying to eliminate any suspicions. And this should help the future Duchess make a decision faster. What are these invitation tickets? They were sent by His Majesty. There are 2 tickets, which means the lady must go there with Duke Scarlet. If the future bride doesn't mind, of course, the girl's cheeks immediately turned red. If it were her homeworld, she would want to spend her whole life next to such a guy. What could possibly happen that was terrible? And now Ryra felt the full weight of nobility on herself. This dress was so luxurious. With power and influence comes great responsibility. We must not forget that. But what a cutie she is in that dress. The maid squealed with delight. The mistress looked simply amazing. She herself couldn't believe it. The carriage had already arrived. Well, I'll be damned. The girl really does seem to have found herself in a fairy tale. She's wearing an incredible ball gown, and the most wonderful prince is waiting in the carriage. The future Duchess picked up the lush hem of her dress and rushed into the carriage. She is so grateful to his lordship for such a luxurious dress, but Ryra is not sure if she deserves it. What kind of reasoning is this? Why does the future wife doubt this at all? The ducal family's budget also includes an allowance for the maintenance of the Duchess. This is clearly stated in the 12th paragraph of their marriage contract. The girl actually read what she signed. There were too many points. She was waiting for a brief summary. But still, the girl cannot receive such gifts, just like that she will need to repay Davion in the future. The future Duchess pressed herself enthusiastically to the carriage window. This was her first such event. The main character sat by the window, silently thinking about his own affairs and not sharing the delight of his future wife. The Grand Duke of Scarlet and his companion, Miss Brussels, were welcomed into the sumptuous velvet-curtained hall. There are so many people from high society here. This is an imperial theater after all. Are commoners not allowed to enter here? The Duke believes that there should be no restrictions based on status, but it will be difficult for commoners to get a place here. Well, I see. The main character reminds someone of Rhea from her real world. That young man also did not understand her concerns. The tone of speech is exactly the same as that graduate student. Why is the lady laughing? Well, Duke Scarlet simply reminded my lady of someone. They were close with this person. So, Lady Ryra says that she had someone with whom they are similar. That's exactly it. And the girl really liked that boy. She was always worried about him. And they still communicate. Unfortunately, there is no longer such an opportunity. And why does my lord ask? In that case, there shouldn't be any problems, which is what the Duke means. Then a woman's scream was heard. What incredible impudence, what else? The sound was coming from the first floor. The attendant is very sorry, but all the seats in the box are already taken. This blind man cannot see who is standing in front of him. So what? This cretin suggests that her ladyship watched the performance from low, cheap seats. This ignoramus deliberately treats the house of Valesia so disdainfully. Of course not. The girl immediately sensed the high stress level of the poor girl standing next to the hysterical woman. The characteristics of patience, sensitivity, and anxiety are in the red danger zone. This is too much. All important indicators are above the permissible norm. We need to help this little girl somehow. Why is Miss Rera so interested in the scandal downstairs? Was the future Duchess acquainted with the Duchess of Valencia? Not at all. It was just that such an inappropriate noise attracted her attention. And Duke Scarlet knows who the girl next to that screaming woman is. It is the Duchess herself. This is Vivian Valencia, the Duke's only daughter and niece of His Imperial Highness. If my Lord Davion remembers correctly, Vivian will be 11 years old this year. But if the little girl is His Excellency's niece, then that means she has royal blood in her, right? And they also look very similar. The Duchess belongs to the imperial family, but the Duke's wife does not. She is the daughter of a count. Their marriage was a union of the noble and aristocratic classes. Duke Valencia married the count's daughter despite her status. Such a difference in rank outraged the public. If this had not been Duke Valesius's second marriage, it is unlikely that he would have been able to have a wedding. Although the Duke's wife is a distant relative of the Duchess who comes from a noble family, for a family in which imperial blood flows, such a union is considered unacceptable and disgraceful. Unfortunately for this girl, she can now not inherit her father's rightful title. Duke Valencia treasures his only daughter very much and wants to pass his title on to her by inheritance. However, given her mother's blood, it is extremely difficult to do this now. What kind of times and morals reign in this wonderful world? Because a family name does not guarantee nobility in the blood. A deafening scream pulled Ryra out of his thoughts. The employee had a personal grudge against the woman or something. The little Duchess's stress levels have skyrocketed, and urgent measures must be taken to save the child. The heroine had never seen the child's indicators go beyond the limits. Something needs to be done immediately before the little one has a nervous breakdown. This poor girl is already under so much pressure, and now this crazy woman is causing her anxiety. Here, the steely voice of the young Duchess was heard. This is just a misunderstanding. The Imperial Theater is his lordship's favorite place. But everyone knows that the Emperor is Vivian's uncle. How can one ignore Valesius's house in such a place? That's what it's like. Vivian is simply too young to fully understand the situation. Her mother is convinced that they are being neglected. Is there any specific reason for the refusal? Of course not. Why would the young lady think so? The guest seats were sold out earlier than usual. It would be disrespectful to give the Valencia family seats that were not worthy of them. The servant immediately bowed in a conciliatory bow, and now the mother was satisfied. Vivian simply went out to enjoy the show in her privacy. Why did her mother constantly beg for attention and demand special treatment? Such ignorant behavior is not befitting of the aristocrat that the Duchess's mother claims to be. So it's high time to accept the situation with the pride of a noble house and get out of it with dignity as your daughter pleases. Next time the theater will give the best seats to the House of Valesius. The little lady has no doubt about that. The young Duchess rolled her eyes and led her scandalous mother out of the audience. She had already made enough noise. What the? It's definitely a girl. Here the young Duchess turned around sharply and looked straight at Rera. What the hell was that anyway? The girl swallowed nervously. The future Duchess was worried about something. Why the girl jumped up so abruptly? To be honest, Ryra herself can't explain what just happened. Something is wrong with this girl. It was just that Lady Brussels thought little Vivian looked exhausted, and Rera thought she could help her. And what is with the obvious disdain in the voice? In fact, Ryra was a sought-after home teacher before they met. Vivian is still a child, my lady. Seriously. And that is the whole reason. In this world, the attitude towards children is completely different. But helping the little Duchess would not benefit Miss Brussels at all, and she did not even think about personal gain. The future bride is a very unusual girl. It seems like the show is about to begin. However, the main character did not even turn to the stage. His entire interest was captured by his future wife. The day passed unnoticed. The Imperial Theater was incomparable, and the girl liked the performance so much. However, something happened today that had been bothering Rera since the very beginning of the performance. Little Duchess, Vivian Valencia, what is there on this girl in the card index of the heroine's consciousness? So Dillian Celeste, Tristan Bruno, Aurora Kane, here she is, but there is no heart next to the baby's name. This means that this child's condition has not been stable for a long time. During the scandal on the first floor, the protagonist made it clear that Ryra could do nothing about the mentality of the noble society. What can I say? Davion is indeed right. She can't change an entire era. It takes centuries. So you just need to forget about this girl and move forward towards your goal. The journey to the homeworld is just beginning. What else awaits Rera ahead? And what is this? The heroine's attention was immediately drawn to the name of the sensational girl. Her status suddenly changed. Today on the menu there is fresh salmon, scallop tartare for an appetizer. If you add sauce, the experience will be unforgettable. The girl put the fork in her mouth and was stunned. Stars appeared in her eyes, as if she was at the peak of a taste extravaganza. Simply delicious. The tender salmon goes perfectly with the crispy croutons, and Mrs. Brussels is a true connoisseur. And then there's the grilled cod with butter and baked potatoes. Enough said, it feels like the food goes into your ears instead of your mouth. Apparently, Milady Ryra's undisguised pleasure in the food raised the spirits of their wonderful chef. Ryra hasn't seen the fantastic Duke for several days. The main character left immediately after the performance at the Imperial Theater. When will Davion return? Ryra even seems bored, it's so strange. The lady has plans for the evening, she is completely free. In that case, would Milady like to visit the palace? The chief secretary wanted to see her. Mr. Vincent is interested in how things are going, and there is something they need to discuss regarding the Duke. The butler will order the carriage to be prepared. And here is Lady Brussels. Welcome to the Imperial Palace, let her sit down quickly. They say that even in barren lands, sprouts can grow. Her love seems to be exactly that. These two met on the border during the war. Who could have imagined that they would become husband and wife? Vincent is also familiar with dramas or something. The chief secretary is glad to see that everything is fine between the two of them. He wishes them a pleasant conversation, and he himself will go. Either Vincent has completely lost his mind due to stress at work, or this is His Majesty's scenario for them. Many will want to know the story of how they met, but His Excellency came up with this story to reduce all suspicions to a minimum. Ryra had never lived near the border, but she had a break from work while staying with the Duke. In general, the bride also thought everything through in detail. There is a 6-month gap in her story. So they can rely on His Highness's script and say that they met exactly then. Then there were rumors of a marriage proposal. It is worth saying that they lost each other for a while, but met again when the lady moved to the capital. Great idea, by the way. The wedding ceremony is scheduled for this month. It is indeed very hasty, but the Emperor is worried that the bride will change her mind, which will only complicate the situation. Ryra is happy with everything. She doesn't have any relatives to invite anyway. Just like the main character, but this is already strange, by the way. She doesn't know anything about her future husband's family. Although no, the girl only knows that Davion's younger brother is possessed by a demon and locked in the temple. So the younger brother became a victim of the demon. But what about the rest of the Scarlet family? Then we can begin preparing for the ceremony. The wedding will be officially announced next week. Lady Ryra can return home. That's all for today, young man. This is serious now, but what about heart-to-heart talks? They will soon become a family. And how is the head of the duchy doing? What is his mood today? Maybe there is some news. If the girl means whether something important or significant happened, then no. What a silly girl! Ryra wasn't talking about that at all. She was asking about little things, like whether her fiancé had eaten on time today. Does the Grand Duke forget about rest and sleep? Does he give his body everything it needs for such a large amount of work? They say that the head of the Ministry of Magic has been very busy these last few days, so the future bride is worried. After all, during work, any other thoughts fade into the background. It is important that the milord does not sacrifice his health for the sake of business. Duke Davion consumes enough calories that it doesn't interfere with his work, and even if it didn't. Is the great magician's diet and calories somehow related to Lady Brussels? What kind of reaction is this? Could this question really be so personal for the young man that he would have such a strong reaction to banal concern and empathy? Why is it so important for the main character to understand why Rair cares about all this, and why is he so distant and strange? Proper nutrition and good sleep contribute to good health, so Miss Ryru is interested in the health of her future husband. It would be strange if it were otherwise. It's not just the future Duchess who is worried about Davion, but also his entire residence. He's been almost invisible in recent days. It is obvious that the Duke does not allow himself to rest enough useless questions and a waste of time. Here the girls seem to have been doused with ice water, or maybe it was her. Maybe she was too intrusive. Ryra always judged others by herself. Not everyone might be comfortable with her attentiveness and initiative. Why does she always stick her nose where it doesn't belong? No one likes annoying and intrusive people. People have personal boundaries. Is the girl's life really so boring that she constantly interferes in other people's lives? Maybe that's really true. After all, she often picks through other people's lives to avoid realizing her own. The maid entered Ryra's private chambers and announced that dinner was ready and that Milady would be down soon. I finally need to stop exhausting myself with anxious and toxic thoughts. If there is delicious food, then dining alone will not seem like something sad. The main character entered the dining hall and saw her future husband, and what is Davion doing here? His appearance at dinner was quite unexpected, despite the fact that this was his home. Now the girl feels somehow awkward being around someone who so abruptly cut off her interest. Clause 19, Article 2, both parties to the contract may make any requests they deem necessary to each other. And Ryra, as the Duke's partner, can ask Davion to be more attentive to his health. Ryra smiled, and it was only for this that my lord had come all this way. After all, my lady herself had insisted on the importance of eating. Let the chef select dishes that will match the calories. It will be fulfilled. It seems that the ice of this crystal perfect angel has broken. Maybe they will even be able to get along. Perhaps Lady Brussels would like to discuss how they will address each other. There should be some formal communication between them when they are alone, but in front of others, it will look suspicious. They really need to think about how the future spouses address each other. You have to remember what they are called in informal settings. Davion is called an insensitive lump, a sociopath. The Duke was also called the Tin Woodman. Maybe we can take something from this, but aren't these all insults? How about just using my lord's name? That would make the future newlyweds feel closer, wouldn't it? If the future Duchess invites her sociopath to the entire hall during a formal reception, this will indicate problems in their newly formed family. And not about intimacy. Well, there is some truth in that, then that's what they will do. The protagonist slowly said his bride's name, as if tasting it, and Ryra immediately blushed. Milady can call the Duke by his first name even when they are alone, so they will get used to it faster. As his lordship would have it, when Davion said her name like that, it gave her goosebumps. So the future Duchess won't have another chance to tell Davion this, most likely, so Ryra will tell him now. The lady will do everything in her power not to disgrace the Scarlet Duchy, but she also counts on the support of her fiancé. They are faced with a new path, which they will have to walk together, honestly and openly. The Duke agrees with this. The future spouses hope that their marriage contract will be successfully completed. And so the news of the upcoming wedding of the Grand Duke thundered in all the printed publications. It was a fateful meeting when Lady Brussels saw the wounded Duke of Scarlet during the war. They promised each other to be together, but when the Duke of Scarlet received his title, it turned out to be impossible. Then the chosen one of the great war hero considered herself a burden and decided to say goodbye to her beloved forever. Time passed, but Duke Scarlet still could not get the image of his beloved girl out of his head. If this story wasn't about Ryra, it would be very romantic, but in her case, it's a disgrace immortalized on the pages of newspapers, as she can't look her friends in the eye. After all, the girl's entourage knows for sure that she has never been to the border, and whether the Duke has read this article. The eastern region has requested support from the mages, as it appears that the grizzly population in the vicinity of the Ester mountain range has increased. And my lord really will marry Madame Brussels. Aaron didn't know this, and it seems he told her too much then. How stupid the magician looked in the eyes of the master's future bride. Surely Lady Rhaera did not think that way about Sir Aaron. In general, already knowing this girl a little, Davion can confidently say that Rhaera is the kindest person of all he has met. She is too attentive to others, never acts with calculation, and does not divide people by status. At the same time, all of this girl's actions look very ordinary and natural. Then Milady said that her fiancé reminded her of someone close to her. Wondering who this man was and what he meant to her, Aaron's voice interrupted Davion's thoughts. His lordship is clearly not here in his thoughts today. It is not like the Duke, and by the way, it is almost lunchtime. Is it really lunchtime already? Time has flown by so quickly today. The main character saw this girl again. Davion should try a new dish. You need to pull yourself together. The Duke really doesn't have it in him to fly in the clouds. Moreover, in order for Davion to fulfill his contractual obligations, he must take a more rational view of what is happening. This marriage will only last 3 years and will not be of much value after that. He should not forget about it. They just made a business deal on favorable terms, that's all. The long-awaited wedding day of the Grand Duke Scarlet and his mysterious chosen one has arrived for the entire empire. Since early morning, the maids have been fussing over the main character. Today is the mistress's day. Everything must be perfect. The snow-white dress symbolized a new path, but there were so many doubts in the bride's eyes. The girl suddenly felt uneasy, and what if she became very attached to her fiancé? What should she do then? Here the bride's thoughts were interrupted by her future husband. His beauty is simply incredible. Davion seemed to glow. Well, the groom will be much more handsome than the bride. Why is the young man so handsome? It is not legal. What is Rhaera talking about, and about Davion outshining her at the altar? You can't be that handsome. The main character believes that the most important thing in any person's appearance is balance. And in the facial features of the future bride, everything looks very harmonious. The groom just called her beautiful or something. The girl's breath immediately caught. She couldn't show her emotions. Their marriage was just a fiction that benefited them. In addition, there are cultural and natural aspects, as well as differences due to common ideas. The bride wants to hear an analysis based on these characteristics, but Ryra understood everything. However, the future Duchess is still interested in what the beauty standards are in Rubedium. After all, in the capital, beauty standards are probably different from those in the bride's home region. So Ryra is interested in how much her heroine corresponds to today's standards of beauty. And so the bride takes the arm of her future husband and squeezes his forearm. Let Davian tell his fiancé about this somehow, if that's what she wants. In 3 years, the girl will have such a wonderful story. She will have something to tell her grandchildren. The solemn ceremony of the marriage of the Duke of Scarlet and Lady Brussels is declared open. After the blessing of the marriage of the young people, it was time for the ceremonial speech. Attention all guests present. His Excellency the Emperor will deliver a speech. An excited whisper of guests immediately went through the hall. It was the Emperor himself. What the hell? His Highness told the groom that he would not be able to attend, but he himself climbed onto the podium. This is a great honor for the bride. His Excellency broke into a wide smile. Today is a long-awaited day for the Emperor. As the last to defend the honor of the Rubedium aristocracy, it is also a great honor for His Majesty to bless the union of his dear friend. And also the hero of the Empire, the Grand Duke Davian. He is destined to lead the country to a new stage of history. Could his lordship have imagined a greater and happier moment in his life? Davian rolled his eyes. What a show-off. It seems that everyone here agrees with the Emperor's thoughts, since they have come such a long way for the sake of their future. Why did the atmosphere at the wedding become so threatening and oppressive, with so many new faces at the ceremony? Therefore, the son of the Empire thought about the fact that there was no one from the noble families here. This means that this is a clearly expressed protest action of the aristocratic nobility against Duke Scarlet. The matter is bad, which is why their wedding was so carefully planned by His Majesty. After all, every wrong step Davian takes will lead to an inevitable fall. And the attempt to undermine the position of the great hero of the Empire also hits His Majesty, because Davian is the main representative of the imperial side. If the ruler had known that the future of the Empire would gather here, he would not have prepared a separate spring banquet. This is not a wedding, but a real political arena, and the move has been made. The future Duchess's attention was drawn to a red-haired girl with a drooping face. This was little Vivienne Valesia. The indicators of sympathy towards others and satisfaction are in the negative. The level of stress and despondency is off the charts. And what is this? Wow! This child's concentration characteristics have risen above the possible norm. This little girl is definitely very unusual. Here Ryra met the gaze of the young Duchess of Valesia again. Oh, why did the sympathy indicator suddenly drop? And why does this girl look like she signed Ryra's death warrant? What did the girl do wrong? They had never even spoken to this child and he wanted to kill her. What was the matter? The groom immediately recognized the bride's concern. What had happened? Nothing serious. The girl immediately brushed off her disturbing thoughts. A year has passed since Rubedium established its dominance over the continent, and the time has flown by in the blink of an eye. In the decades before the war, many people made efforts and sacrifices, so that their empire Rubedium would be where it is now. Unfortunately, many war heroes remained nameless, and their names will not be remembered. But it is no exaggeration to say that today's greatness of Rubedium was created by the sweat and blood of these heroes, and each hero must be remembered and carefully carried through time. Through such thorns their empire rushed to great joy, didn't it? And today, on this beautiful day, His Highness blesses the union of this young couple. May good luck and happiness accompany the future of the newlyweds, and may bad weather pass them by. Let each of the newlyweds become a reliable support and a quiet haven for each other. So be it. In the name of His Imperial Majesty, Duke Scarlet and Duchess Scarlet are hereby declared husband and wife. After the ceremony, the girl collapsed heavily into a hot bath with rose petals. It was all so tiring. The girl doesn't think she's ready to get married a second time and go through all this. Her body hurts so much. The festive banquet was not so grand, but the bride was still very exhausted. And the girl is also very worried about that girl from the House of Valesia, why Vivienne is so hostile towards her. Ryra didn't do anything to her, on the contrary, she wanted to help so much, but as Davian said, she can't do anything. And this realization makes the heroine's soul even heavier. What will happen to this child? The Duchess's thoughts were interrupted by an insistent knock on the door of her private chambers. It must be the butler Will who came at such a late hour. Let the servant come in. Ryra is not sleeping anyway. It wasn't the butler. The main character's pupils immediately dilated. In the light of the silver moon, he stood like a fantastic creature, woven from perfection. This guy is glowing. You can't do this. You need to pull yourself together. What is Davion doing here? Could something really have happened at this hour? Should the girl be worried? Not at all. Duke Davion and Duchess Rhaera are now officially married as of today. Well, yes, the bride was also at the wedding today and knows what the young man is leading to. The main character approached his newly made wife in a warlike manner. Davion came to fulfill his marital duties. What his lordship just said, the performance of marital duties, that's exactly it. Deep, dark night, a lonely bedroom, and a man who had just come out of the bathroom. More precisely, the most beautiful man of all stands before her under the cover of night and wants to fulfill the duties of a husband. So stop. We are clearly not talking about a joint household. We are talking about intimacy. Stop. Rhaera is not ready. Starting tomorrow, Davion will not be in the estate for a whole month. The decision was made literally on the fly. Her husband is not helping at all. Perhaps his trip will be delayed depending on the circumstances. Davion will let her know in that case. The newly minted Duchess needs time to prepare for Davion's departure. If it was really that important to the girl, the Duke would discuss such trips in advance in the future. But no. Rhaera was just thinking about something else. Night, bedroom, marital obligations. Something else would immediately come to mind. Rhaera could not even imagine that it was about her husband simply warning her about leaving. Something Davion doesn't understand. He is obliged to talk about trips. It is his duty. Rhaera thought that he wants to conceive an heir now. Ah, that's what the girl was talking about. Then her reaction is quite understandable. She doesn't need to worry about that. That's why, what Davion means is that the Duke wants the Scarlet Line to end with him. The girl stared at her husband in bewilderment. There must be very good reasons for such a decision. The young man is confident that no one will be against such a decision, not even the church. By the way, Will said that the new Duchess was going to have a tea party. Rhaera heard that this needed to be done after the wedding. This aspect is not written down anywhere, so if the girl herself does not want it, then she does not need to do it. The wife mentioned that she had never participated in social life. It was quite an attraction, and looking at the girl, it was clear that this was not in her nature. And as a duchess, she should focus on her tasks and not overdo it by trying to be perfect. Davion doesn't want the Duchess to feel any pressure. It seems like this is all taking its toll on her. The young man is so kind and caring, this soft tone, but at the same time putting up a barrier out of fear of crossing personal boundaries. As a home teacher, Rhaera knows that this is how children are usually spoken to. That is, the husband wants to say that even if his chosen one does not cope perfectly, he will not be disappointed in her. Rhaera is right, or she was too optimistic about it. The girl immediately beamed. What a cutie he is. Could he be more perfect? The young man cleared his throat in embarrassment, which was exactly what Davion wanted to convey to the Duchess. After which, the main character immediately turned around and left his wife's private chambers. A warm smile remained on the girl's face after his visit. It was tea time in the Scarlet Duchy, and Rhaera still felt that it was a necessary measure to avoid angering the high society. A small reception hosted by a recently married noblewoman. In fact, it is not at all an easy and joyful event, filled with women's laughter and casual conversations. This is war, and every move the tea party hostess makes demonstrates the taste and status of Scarlet's house. Which material would be better to choose for a tablecloth, linen, or velvet? Both options are available in the residence. It would be better to look at them personally and decide. Being a duchess is generally quite a burden. Spending other people's money is never easy. Invitations have already been sent to each family. All that remains is to send them. The main character asked his wife not to overdo it, but it was too late. A response had been received from the House of Valesia. The newly minted Duchess grabbed the reply letter and began to read it greedily. Duchess Valesia will not be able to attend Milady Scarlet's tea party. She is unwell, but her daughter will be there. This is such good news that of course, Duchess Valesia's health is not bad. Rhaera immediately felt at peace with the fact that there were no rejections among the letters. Ms. Rhaera is really great, to be honest. She didn't expect to do so well. So we need to move the tables a little more so that all the guests can fit. Everything is so beautiful, but this is the Duchess's first tea party. The cooks must make every effort. Today will be the perfect reception. All that remains is to wait for the guests. The clock had long since struck the time for tea, but the invited guests still had not arrived. But the butler doesn't know. Maybe the bell is broken, the servants checked it in the morning, it's working properly. The servant approached the tea party hostess and announced that letters had arrived from families who were due to arrive today. All the letters said the same thing: the noble ladies were very sorry that they would not be able to attend the tea party today. Duchess Scarlet was so kind to invite noble ladies to her celebration. Therefore, they are very sorry that they will not be able to attend such a significant event for the newly minted Duchess. They sent her gifts. The maids brought gift boxes from noble families. What the hell? The girl realized the true state of affairs. No one was going to come to her in the first place. The butler knew from the beginning that this would happen, didn't he? He was just sparing her feelings. Sir Will couldn't know for sure, but high society was very cruel, especially to newcomers. Unexpected events happen more often than expected. That's what Will has learned over the years. This was the first lesson from the nobility that the newly minted Duchess received. Apparently, being in this world has prepared many more surprises and varied experiences for the girl. Well, okay, how does the butler think the Duchess will be able to sell all these gifts? Just think, this impostor invited the daughter of Duke Valesius himself to her reception. How can you be so ignorant? It's incredible. This girl really imagines herself to be the head of a great house. Does this empty shell really think she is worthy? Her position is just an accident. But at the same time, this girl was overflowing with confidence in her suitability. The little girl placed her cup on the saucer with a loud bang. All the vultures in their lush dresses instantly fell silent, but the event in Scarlet's house was still worth attention. It would be unseemly for noble ladies to leave things as they are. What the young Duchess suggests is that noble persons should invite the newly minted Duchess to the ball. A loud laughter immediately rang out throughout the restroom, which did not bode well. Milady Scarlet has given such a valuable gift to their home, they don't even know how to thank her. The Duchess is so kind. The best gift for Ryra would be if the children were healthy and happy. Why are the kids standing there? Let them come here quickly. Milady Scarlet has prepared gifts for the children. Let them look quickly. How nice it is to give people joy and happiness, especially little children. The little girl ran to the window, and today is New Year. What does the little girl mean? New Year is in December, and now it's only June outside, but they brought so many gifts. The little girl grabbed her sister by the hand and dragged her to look at the gifts. The girl kept this memory with special warmth in her heart. And children can really eat all of this, of course, but they shouldn't overdo it, otherwise their stomachs will hurt. Let the children roll up their sleeves before the meal. Grandpa should also try. And what is this shaking thing? This jelly is very sweet and delicious. It is a great creation from the chef that will definitely remain in history. Well, how warm and light it was in my soul. Then someone tugged the girl by the sleeve of her dress. Next to her stood a very serious and puzzled boy. What is it? He ate well. The boy is not at all hungry, but he would like to know if he can take it with him. The boy is talking about fruit jelly now. How much should he take with him? Not much at all, Pin. Oh, that rascal. The woman looked for the boy everywhere, and here he was chatting with a beautiful lady. Let him sit down to eat quickly. He loves sweets so much. Pin, like a frightened cat, immediately ran away. Where is Pin running? This is all for him. We need to give this child some time to adapt. Pin is truly a wonderful and sweet child and doesn't always act like he does today. After Pin's little sister was taken in by a new family, he began to distance himself from everyone. The couple was against separating the babies, but Pin himself insisted that he wanted a better life for his little sister. He was a real miracle. But apparently this decision was not easy for the boy. So there's a bright boy named Pin and his little sister Lucy. The main character must try to help this beautiful child. She needs to talk to him. The girl began to make her way through the trees. The boy must be somewhere here. Judging by the tracks on the ground, the child comes here often apparently. This place serves as a refuge for his thoughts. The Duchess noticed 2 small feet in boots on a branch of a thick tree. It was Pin. The girl carefully approached the boy and said hello. Pin immediately jumped up in place. So the boy's name is Pin, a very cute name. It suits the child very well. The boy immediately jumped off the branch. He heard that the lady was a duchess. Where did she get so much free time? Well, the girl doesn't have much to do, but she has a lot of money. But you shouldn't say that to everyone. And the lady is sure that she can be here, of course, if Pin keeps it a secret. Pin is quite talkative. That's strange. That's why the girl came here. And where does the young lady get so much money? She recently got married successfully, and on this occasion she organized a tea party. And she invited many guests, but no one wanted to come to her. The girl was simply paid off with gifts, but that was just a boycott, and the guy is no slouch. But thanks to these useless but expensive gifts, the girl received a good sum of money. Just so Pin knows, no amount of money or gifts gives you the right to bully other people. Such a right cannot be given at all. No, that's exactly how Pin gets to the root of it again. This child is still very small, but it is clear that he has matured earlier than others. Pin can address the Duchess simply by her first name. Why did Ryra come here? How did she know the boy was here? It's simple in action. When a girl wanted to be alone with herself, she came to such places. She dreamed of disappearing, but she was afraid that her thoughts would cross the line because she had a little sister and she couldn't disappear. So the Duchess has a little sister, yes. She is so sweet and nice, like an angel. Why then didn't Ryra take her little sister with her, but came here alone? Ryra would have liked that very much, but now her little sister has become one of the stars in the sky, illuminating the way. And the lady doesn't miss her. Not a day goes by that Ryra doesn't think about her. Just like the boy himself about his little sister, doesn't he? He misses Lucy very much. Pin swallowed nervously. He really wanted to see his little sister, but he couldn't. Lucy was crying and begging him not to give her away. Her older brother explained to her that then the girl would be able to live well and eat well, but Lucy stubbornly refused. She was in so much pain and fear, and all because of Pin. Because of his age, he can't be near her. Then the boy had to lie to his little sister. This was the only way Pin could send her to a happy future without him. The boy said that he would go to another family, but if Lucy did not go to hers, then nothing would work out for him. Pin does not regret her decision. Now Lucy is cared for, she is loved, she always has a roof over her head and food. But the words the little girl spoke before their separation still echo in his soul. The little sister continued to cry and ask her brother for forgiveness. She did not let go of his hand. Pin did it. That's why Pin is worried that his little sister might think that he simply abandoned her for his own happiness. Lucy could not accept that there were reasons in the world that could force her and her brother to separate. After all, they were the closest to each other. They were each other's world, one whole. And now Pin comes here alone and afraid that the person closest to him hates him. The boy is so afraid that his little sister thought that his older brother, who promised to take care of her, simply abandoned her alone. Judging by Pin's words, they both love each other very much, so it's unlikely that Lucy thinks so about the fact that he took such good care of her all this time. The boy is crying. Not at all. Who said that? Suddenly the boy stopped sniffling and wiped his nose with his hand. 1 minute. But the girl is now a duchess and can see other noble families. If Ryra ends up in Count Manier's house, she'll be able to convey a few words from Pin, of course. What the Duchess was supposed to tell the girl, Pin immediately began to whisper the answer in her ear. The day flew by so quickly with these little and bright children. A warm smile lit up the girl's face again. How wonderful that she would be able to help this child. Welcome, Duchess Scarlet. Daisy deliberately makes fun of her old friend. How could it be otherwise? Now her friend is a very important and influential person in the Empire. This is absolutely not true. Ryra couldn't invite her to the wedding. She's sorry. Daisy understands everything and tries to avoid such grand events, and the Emperor himself was there. By the way, how does Ryra feel? How does she like the noble life and its background? It's okay. Daisy already knows about the Duchess's tea party. These snakes declared a boycott on their friend and didn't come. Daisy apologizes for having to bring up such an unpleasant topic. She's just worried about her friend. The newly minted Duchess is fine, by the way. Ryra had previously asked her to help her with her work. Lady Letta learned that she had applied for the position of governess, and the Countess noticed this while reviewing other candidates. The job of a governess is perceived as the lot of women from impoverished, noble families who have problems getting married. If there was a way to change this attitude, Ryra needed to know, which is why Daisy invited her to the meeting. The main character is very grateful to her friend. She is really right. The former home teachers said a warm goodbye to each other. They will see each other again. The butler reported that the remaining things had been put away in the storeroom. Maybe Mistress Scarlet wants to go down and check things out, and Will is sure that's what she should do. Milady Ryra is the mistress of the Scarlet residence, and Lord Davian insisted that her rights as a duchess were fully respected. Well, the main character is so cute, then Ryra will be glad to look into the pantry. What the hell? The butler was definitely not mistaken. This can't be a storage room. Ryra is like in a famous museum. The girl is even afraid to touch anything here. Let the Duchess look around here and call if she needs anything. It's crazy how much interesting stuff there is here. And over there in that corner you can see gifts for Ryra from unpleasant ladies. Even after donations to the orphanage, there were still so many boxes left. If these hyenas don't come to Scarlet's house for tea a couple more times, then we can raise money for the shelter for a whole year. Then something fell from the wall onto the floor with a loud crash. Oh no, it wasn't the girl's fault after all. The main character immediately rushed to pick up the object. What was that there? It was a portrait. How strange that the family portrait is locked in a storage room instead of hanging in a prominent place in the residence itself. And who is this child in the portrait? Eyes the color of ice, hair like cotton candy. This boy doesn't look like the main character at all. But then, who is he? Or maybe it is Davion after all. If so, then next to him must be his mother. She is a very beautiful woman. But where did this portrait fall from? And where should the Duchess return it? All the bookshelves are tightly packed with accounting books, encyclopedias, and some albums. Then an employee entered the storage room. What's the matter? Something happened. The new mistress of the house should worry. Not at all. The fact is that Duke Davion has returned home. The girl immediately squealed contentedly and ran to meet the main character, how Davion's trip went. Everything went according to plan, so we can say that the trip was a success. That's great. And the young man ate something today. The girl immediately stopped short. Ryra was at it again. The Duke had said that his digestion did not apply to her. Well, here we go again. The main character has ruined everything. And why is she always pestering everyone with her questions? Davion had just returned from a trip, and she had immediately begun to annoy him. The Duke took breaks for food whenever possible. And it seems like the married couple had already discussed this before the trip. But what about the girl herself? What her husband means is that the newly minted Duchess had no problems with food. And when a girl had problems with eating, especially with such a fantastic chef, it makes me happy. Maintaining health is critical to successfully fulfilling their marriage contract. How the Duchess missed this sweet grumbling. They would dine together tonight, of course. So the head of the duchy was traveling through Kyrantra. Ryra could not have imagined that her husband would be so far away. This place is very different from the Empire. It is warmer there than in its southern part, but the climate is drier. The summer is especially hot. Because of this, the skin of the locals is darker, and all people there are usually tall and slim, regardless of gender. Why did the main character suddenly become so talkative? There is a special dish for dinner today, a meat pie. This pie turned out to be truly incredible. The children were delighted. What kind of children are they? Duke Scarlet had been away from his home residence for only a month. Well, nothing significant happened for the duchy, so my lord really shouldn't know. The Duchess wanted to say that she was very sorry that her first tea party had gone the way it had. None of the noble houses attended the reception. Ryra did not want to tarnish the reputation of the duchy. The girl didn't tarnish it. The Duke had warned that this rabble wasn't worth Ryra's expectations. That's true. Why is the newly minted mistress of the residence so worried about this? Could it be that Duchess Scarlet was not well prepared for tea, chose the wrong dishes or decorations? Perhaps my lady was careless with the invitations, forgot someone, or deliberately did not take someone into account. Not at all. The girl straightened up proudly. She put all her strength into this event. The Duchess did take care to ensure that Scarlet's house was not disgraced in front of other families. And yet, the girl's plans and expectations were shattered into pieces, and it was beyond Ryra's power. This is exactly what the young man warned about. Ryra is too naive. Noble society is a nest of snakes. At that time, the Duchess really did not understand anything, but she learned her lesson. And now, the mistress of the Scarlet Duchy already understands how she should react if something like this happens again. Davion turned down 5 marriage proposals, and this was after he became head of the Ministry of Magic. So it will be extremely difficult for the newlywed wife to ruin Davion's reputation. She shouldn't worry about it anymore. It wasn't her fault, and that's the main thing here. The girl immediately broke into a smile. Her wonderful husband also knows how to support her. It was as if she had won the lottery. Nothing of the sort. This is simply a statement of facts, nothing more. Be that as it may, the main character was very pleased to hear this from the Duke. The servant knocked and called out to his mistress. A letter had arrived addressed to her, very interesting, and from whom? The young man handed over to the Duchess a beautiful envelope with a coat of arms on the seal. The seal was red, and on it are depicted 2 roses. Wait a minute, doesn't this coat of arms belong to the house of the Duchy of Valesia? Goosebumps ran down the main character's spine, and why did she suddenly feel uneasy from this last name? Could it really be about this girl? What, the little Duchess writes, that she would like to see the newly minted mistress of the house Scarlet at the ball. Therefore, the young aristocrat hopes that Duchess Scarlet will honor her with her presence. Daisy is close to Lady Letica and Duchess Valesia. They found out that Rhaera was a governess and want to ridicule her. The reason why the girl was invited to the gala reception is quite obvious, but Rhaera must go. Well, apparently the ducal life will not be as simple and airy as the heroine expected at the beginning. And why does this girl dislike Ryra so much? They have never seen each other or even communicated. The little sister understands that she is in pain, but she should not cry. The girl sighed heavily. Every day she thinks about her. Every day she dreams of seeing her sister again. A few days later, at the Valesia estate, Mrs. Isabella begins sponsoring a new artist, so eager to see the result of his work. Lady Isabella is grateful for the attention and hopes that the exhibition will be held before the end of this year. Miss Isabella has excellent taste. So many will want to visit her exhibition. The show begins. Well, here comes their most long-awaited guest. Look at the little one, calm down. It's just an evil child. What a relief that the newly minted Duchess of House Scarlet finally graced the ladies with her presence. And then the noble ladies were so worried that my lady was offended by them and would not come in response. What is that girl wearing? Isn't that too mature an outfit for an 11-year-old? Corset, cleavage, lots of jewelry, and those high-heeled shoes. Apparently, Milady Scarlet really liked Vivian's dress. She can't take her eyes off it. It was truly an impressive piece of work, so she and her friends decided to gather here early. That's why the tea party itself started earlier than planned, and the mean ladies immediately started giggling. So the noble ladies hope that Duchess Scarlet will understand them, of course. The second son of the Blanc family studied at the senior academy together with the elder brother of the young Duchess of Valesia. This young man is a real gentleman, so Lady Vivian is sure that he and Elizabeth will get along well. How about a walk along the river together? Isabella's mansion has beautiful flowers growing by the water. What a delicious cake. With such treats, Ryra will survive these snakes. It is worth taking the recipe for the cook. By the way, the ladies learned that the current Duchess loves to communicate and take care of children. After all, Lady Scarlet taught a large number of children, and here comes the first blow. Well, Ryra remembered that nasty blonde, unfortunately for her. It must be so hard that Letizia wants to say that the Duchess worked as a teacher. So this particular person is one of those who persistently begged the Duke of Scarlet to marry her, and obviously, she still hasn't forgotten Davian. Letitia's mother was just looking for someone who could take care of her second child, and so it began. What was the maiden name of the present noble Duchess, I believe, Brussels? It was a pity that Lady Letitia had not known of Lady Scarlet's skills before, or she would have recommended her to her mother. Here the little hostess of the tea party once again put her cup back in its place with a loud clang, thereby tacitly ordering all her guests to immediately shut up. And doesn't Miss Letitia think it's extremely disrespectful to say such a thing in front of Mrs. Scarlet? After which the purple eyes glared at the newly minted Duchess, which meant the little one wanted Ryra to tell everything herself. There is not a drop of lies in what that lady said. The girl really did work as a teacher. Is this really true? For a duchess of such a house, it is quite shameful. But Ryra really loves kids and she enjoyed working with them, and why is she such a wimp? Why does she always allow herself to be walked all over? You need to think about the fact that now she is not defending herself, but the honor of her wonderful husband. If it weren't for the work of a tutor, Lady Ryra would never have met her future husband. So the Duchess is very grateful to her former profession for having met Davian, as my lady had just called the Duke of Scarlet. And do ladies call their husbands by their titles? Oh right, they wanted to marry the Duke of Scarlet, but he refused them. In short, if Lady Brussels had not remained in her manor then, she would never have met the love of her life. Well, we talked. Why did everyone suddenly become silent? If Ryra could never protect herself, she was quite capable of protecting others. And where is the little mistress of the tea party heading so quickly? Vivian wants to visit her mother. Letitia hung her head in defeat. The little girl slammed the door in displeasure and left. What's wrong with this girl? Ryra understands perfectly well the pressure Vivian is under. Besides, children of nobles are often raised in strict conditions, but this girl goes too far. And if the little Duchess continues her line further, then Ryra simply won't be able to help her. How can one even approach such a child? The girl was already perceived as an enemy for some reason. While the main character was lost in her thoughts, she did not notice how she wandered into a winding garden. It's time to go back to the tea room to the envious and rotten girls. Well, how did the Duchess end up here? She had to remember the way. It was not a suitable place for serene reflection. You can't keep yourself waiting, it's bad form, and Ryra has a hard time in this society even without a reason. Wait, maybe while she was gobbling up her third piece of cake, the girls were talking about this very place. The garden labyrinth had recently been restored. The labyrinth has simply undergone some changes, and the little Duchess will definitely invite the girls to take a walk in it. Well, great, so the Duchess ended up in a garden labyrinth, and how can she now return to her starting point? There is no point in wandering around here for a long time. You need to try to go straight through the green wall. Why does the girl always get into such situations? Why is she so clumsy and stupid? As soon as the main character touched the hedge, she immediately pulled her hand back. Oh, why does it hurt so much? The girl plopped heavily onto the ground. Well, now her luxurious dress will be covered in mud. Here, the heroine's attention was drawn to some movement right next to her. Oh no, what else is there? Oh, the girl is about to burst with emotion. What a lovely puppy. I just want to cuddle him. Nice baby. Who is so handsome here? Who is so sweet here? Who is the cutest here? What a fluffy magnet. Her heart can't withstand this wave of cuteness. The main character felt a collar with a medallion under the white fur with her palm, which means the baby has an owner. Well, where is this irresponsible person who let such a cutie go to chance? Because some aunt who is a fan of furry animals could be passing by. Why was such a small lump released into the garden? A labyrinth without supervision. Usually, such little tails are kept in the residence itself for their own safety, so this cutie got lost. It's okay, don't let the baby be afraid. They will definitely find his wayward owner. Then a loud voice was heard in the garden calling Becky, and the puppy immediately responded to this sound. What's going on? The baby began to actively wag his fluffy tail and bark, Becky, Becky. A figure appeared from behind the trees. The little tea party hostess appeared in the garden. Vivian immediately noticed her puppy in the hands of the enemy. So this adorable baby belongs to an angry girl. Well, maybe at least Vivian loves him. And the Duchess found the girl's puppy. What impudence! How dare Lady Scarlet? How dare Duchess Rara bring a beast into someone else's estate without notice? Although how could a country bumpkin know that this is extremely disrespectful, the little brat has completely lost her mind. If Vivian's mother finds out about this, it will be extremely unpleasant. Let the Duchess immediately leave their residence, and the girl keep this a secret. So be it. What is Lady Valesia even talking about, and why couldn't Rara answer even the impudent girl? It's worth working on. And so the main character brought the fluffy baby with her. Will everything be okay? Apparently, this cute puppy was looked after by Vivian, and his name is Becky. The poor baby is so upset, his ears and tail are drooping. How could you give up such a little one? It was obvious that this little one recognized Vivian, but why did she pretend that she was seeing the puppy for the first time? Even if the girl's mother hates furry pets, with such a character, Vivian would have knocked out at least 10 for herself. Could it be that the girl kept the baby a secret from everyone and decided to abandon him as soon as they found out about him? How callous and empty do you have to be to easily abandon a friend? To give up someone you are responsible for, someone who needs you? All that was left was to tell the whole story to the head of the duchy and hope that he would allow the baby to be left here. Here is the main character, and who was barking in the Duchess's private bedroom, Davion just heard. And here they are, this fluffy one will melt anyone's heart. His name is Becky or Sweet Bun. The girl told the whole story of how the puppy appeared in the Duke's estate. Well, something like that. This little pie doesn't take up much space. Becky is not noisy at all and gets along with everyone. The Duchess apologizes for not being able to warn about the puppy's arrival in advance, as circumstances have developed. Very soon, the girl will find a suitable place for the puppy, but for now, let Becky live with them. Okay, really? Whoever wants to scratch the belly of a Sweet Bun, Davion is out. Ryra was already afraid that the young man did not like fluffy animals, but he so easily allowed her to leave Becky at the residence. But the Duke really doesn't like the fluffies, he said, but Davion doesn't hate them. Only someone who doesn't know what happiness these little ones can give can say this. It's true. Davion never had furry friends, but he had heard about it. It is very interesting, and who told the Duke these unjustified horrors? His mother. Well, this was the first time in their entire acquaintance that Davion had mentioned his mother. By the way, in the storage room there was a portrait of a very beautiful woman with a boy. This was Davion's mother, apparently. The little Duke is so cute, even though he looked a little different as a child. So the Duchess saw the portrait with her mother. Yes, his husband's mother is simply an incredible beauty. In the portrait, Davion's mother had pink hair, and he had powdery curls as a child. It suited him so well. Wait, again. What color was the child's hair in the portrait in the pantry? The boy had powdery hair. Exactly the same hair as Davion's mother, a muted pink shade. In that case, Davion is not the boy in the portrait, and that woman is not his mother. The main character stared at her husband in shock. She thought that Davion had simply changed over time. But in that case, who is the woman depicted in the portrait and who is the boy next to her? Despite the Duke's words, the child still looks very much like Davion himself. So what they have is a family portrait in the storage room of Scarlett's family estate, and a boy who looks like Davian but isn't. The girl began to have too many questions for her husband about what all this meant. The handsome and mysterious Duke hadn't said anything about his family, and then there was some woman with a child. This boy's name is Christian Emmett Molt. There is no information in the halls of Ryra's mind. The main character's face has taken on a cold and metallic look. This is Davian's younger brother. That is, this pink-haired boy is the same younger brother who was imprisoned in the temple due to demon possession. The furry baby hit the squeaky toy with its soft paw. Becky had always loved this ball in Vivian's memories. Vivian looked at her furry friend Squeaker. Becky loved to play with that thing. The girl is so bored. That nasty Duchess from the village is back again. Why is she always pestering her? Around the girl lay the baby's collars, his toys, bowls, bed, her Becky. The next morning, Duke Scarlet met with His Majesty. What a pleasant day, as close to business as possible. When a room is properly cluttered, it is difficult for noise to escape. As expected from a dear friend, His Excellency again speaks in praise. Why did His Highness invite my Lord Davian? The Tower of Mages decided to open its doors for the second year in a row. Tower openings are irregular tests conducted inside the Tower of Mages. They are known for their short announcements and testing periods, requiring participants to have not only skill, but also luck. A deafening roar was heard in the magic tower, and its doors flew to the side. The rest of the magicians synchronously took a step back from the strongest among them. How scary, he is even human. Or in the case of the greatest mage Davian, one must possess skills that would outshine luck itself. The Duke understands better than the Emperor what all this means. Finding capable magicians will be more difficult. Since the subjects cannot be represented by any state, nothing can be done. In addition, after that incident, the magicians added a condition that took into account past records. Well, the Archmage will have a difficult job, but why is the ruler so happy about this, and Davian is not an Archmage yet? By the way, suspicious activity has been noticed in Melo, so the Duke will have to go there. These are, after all, shadowed magicians, right, who have become apostates and profit from looting and robbery. It's a pity that the joyful period of newlyweds will have to be postponed. It's very funny. As an apology, the ruler will send the Duchess a gift. Perhaps the newlywed husband will help his good friend with advice on what to give his wife. What does the new Duchess Scarlet like? What does she like? The Emperor knows that their marriage is a sham, so they are not that close. The ruler hopes that the spouses do not forget to talk to each other. They talk only when necessary. Here the main character began to think. Although all the recent conversations between the two spouses can hardly be called necessary and important, she and Rara talked about beauty standards in the capital, about analyzing her appearance and other unimportant little things. No problem. His lordship has long since brought some amazing pearls, so Duchess Scarlet should like them. The gift should smooth over the wife's indignation, because the lady will have to appear alone at the spring ball while the Duke of Scarlet is away. And why does his lordship think that Davian's absence from the ball will cause discomfort to the Duchess? The guy is serious. If the newly married Duchess were to appear at a formal event alone, it would certainly attract the poisonous attention of all the vultures. However, if my Lord Scarlet had decided to accompany his wife, the consequences for her would have been even worse. The young man is a bit confused. Let him allow the old man to give him some advice. There is no point in getting hung up on these thoughts. This lady understands her role very well. After all, she has already paid a heavy price. The ruler cast a sly glance at the young head of the ministry. How funny. This whole situation could turn out in a very unexpected way. So, according to her heroine's abilities, the girl knows that Christian Emmett Molt is now 8 years old. This is the first time that the halls of consciousness have shown her information without a personal meeting with the child. The powder-haired woman in the portrait is the second wife of the Duke of Molt, and Christian is their son. It became clear that Davian does not bear his father's last name. The situation in this family is too complicated. The Molt family was not at the recent event. Perhaps they are not part of the capital's nobility. This means that Davian Scarlet and Christian Molt are half-brothers on their father's side, but only one of them has his father's last name. The girl knows nothing at all about the person with whom she signed a marriage contract. This is completely normal. Becky barked busily. And who is this sweet guy who woke up here? Which means they can go out with the baby. The fluffy little one was frolicking happily in the green grass. What wonderful weather it is today. What a clever girl Becky is. Let her quickly bring her ball to Ryra. It's a pity that we won't be able to take this charm into the real world. The wonderful fluffy one brought his ball to the girl. What a clever boy he is! After which the baby spat out the toy and wagged his tail with a businesslike air. Apparently, this little pie played ball with Vivian quite often. He understands everything. Who is the smartest? Becky is the smartest. The Duchess stroked the baby on the head. There was still no news from the little Duchess, although Ryra was very much hoping for an explanation. Is this girl really ready to part with her friend? She clearly cared about the baby. And how can one leave such a miracle? Just thinking about it tears Ryra's soul apart. Fluffy started barking and wagging his tail. What was the matter? The girl turned around. The head of the duchy has arrived in the summer garden well. The Duke came earlier than usual today. Apparently there was less work at the Ministry of Magic today. No, news had just come through, and Davion had decided to see him before leaving. How is this? The young man just recently returned from Chirantra. Isn't this too tiring for his body? As long as the Duke gets enough sleep, he'll be fine, and he won't let his health deteriorate to the point where it could affect his contract. What's going on? The girl isn't saying this because of the contract. Ryra is just worried about his well-being. The Duchess is concerned about Davion's comfort and feelings in particular. Maybe Ryra is so worried about him because she has been alone for a long time. Maybe because they have been living together under the same roof for 3 years. Or maybe it's all about meaningless emotions. As my lord said, in any case, Ryra is worried about her husband. Let Davion take care of himself while he's away, and everything will go without any problems, Becky barked approvingly. It is worth telling the servants to be sure to pack the Duke with warm clothes and a first aid kit. Let Davion also take a headdress with him. And what does Ryra like? What? In fact, the girl likes so many things that she can't remember right away, but why does she only think about food? Are the heroine's preferences really that primitive? We need to think about that. And what about the Duke? What does a handsome young man like? What arouses special interest or joy? To be honest, Davion never thought about it, in which case the Duchess offers him a contract. When the great hero of the Empire returns from his upcoming trip, he should be ready to talk about this topic. Let him think carefully about what he likes, what does not leave Davion indifferent. And most importantly, the young man must not forget to tell the Duchess about the local beauty standards. Ryra still remembers, of course, and is still waiting. Davion hasn't forgotten about this conversation. Not at all. The main character did not forget about their conversation for a moment. What is happening? The girl thinks. Either the atmosphere around them has suddenly changed, or she has imagined herself again. Soon after this conversation in the garden, the protagonist left the estate and went to Malo on another mission from His Majesty. Time passed, and only a few days remained until the spring ball at the Imperial Palace. The girl was so worried about whether her dress would fit into the standards of the local nobility, how the guests would react to her appearance without her eminent husband. The butler knocked on the door. Duchess Scarlet is not asleep yet, not at all. Let Will come in. Something happened, the lady has nothing to worry about. Duke Scarlet sent her this, what is it? But why should my lord send something to Ryra? The fact is that the gentleman's trip is delayed, so he asked to convey this to the lady in advance. And what then could the main character send to the girl? It's a pity that Davion is delayed. The Duchess took the parcel from the butler and began to unwrap it. Inside was a book. And why did her husband suddenly decide to send a book? What is it about? The doctrine of the formation of aesthetic standards, the social environment, what? That is, the wonderful hero took the girl's questions about local beauty standards so seriously. Well, that's true, but the girl is really interested in what is currently valued in beauty among the residents of the capital. There is so much information here. Wait a minute, isn't this Davion's handwriting? Did the young man write this entire volume himself? It had been 2 weeks since his departure, and taking into account the delivery time, Davion had written this hefty encyclopedia in just 10 days. And here is another note: due to time constraints, some details had to be omitted from the book. If my lady has any questions after reading, please feel free to ask them. The girl burst into loud laughter. Davion is truly an extraordinary person. The main character turned on the light and began to read the book she was given. It was quite obvious that the young man tried to convey the most important aspects of local standards to make her life in the capital easier. So touching. And so the day of the spring ball arrived, a gala reception to which guests came not only from the capital. The luxurious ballroom was filled with live music and the velvety voices of the court nobility in incredible outfits. The butler announced the arrival of Duchess Ryra Scarlet, and as soon as the girl entered, a wave of gossip immediately spread through the crowd. So this is what the newly made wife of the great hero of the empire looks like. They say she is not from the nobility. And what could such a simpleton from the backwoods offer the most prominent suitor of the empire? Don't worry, I just need to stay here until the end of the spring ball. It was much worse at my previous job. The little Duchess approached the two gossips, and here is Lady Vivienne. She looks simply wonderful. This ignoramus disappeared on the day of tea, without even saying a word to anyone about what disrespect for the house of Valicia. This girl has worked as a governess all her life. She is not familiar with tact and manners, so you shouldn't expect it from her. Well, how could a pathetic servant know about the ethics and culture of the capital's society? Oh, it seems the Duchess wanted to get some fresh air. The ladies had only just started and she was already running away. The young instigator looked at the main character with a cold gaze. And so every time, the girl constantly tolerates this kind of attitude and allows herself to be treated this way. When will Rara learn to respect herself and stand up for herself? They are just a bunch of envious girls. Maintaining good posture is much harder than expected. My lower back is already hurting so much. Although in reality, Rara expected to face direct attacks, and these vile girls turned out to be so cowardly and passive. Social workers are used to this kind of treatment, so Rara can't be upset by it anymore. Well, now it remains to return to the ballroom and greet His Excellency. The girl ran her hand over the pearl necklace. At the same time, she needed to thank the ruler for the gift. Rara had already started to leave the garden when she heard a woman's roar. Why was the girl disgracing her mother again? The Duchess immediately hid behind a column. Apparently it was Madame Standen. Rara had heard many rumors about her. After the death of her husband, Viscount Standen, the Viscountess ran several businesses on her own and also raised their daughter. Why is it that Evelyn behaves so perfectly, but in public it's completely different? Stop crying already. The Viscountess barked at the child again, and she ordered her daughter to stop crying right now. Oh no, the baby's stress levels are too high. The poor girl is at her limit now. We need to intervene immediately. The figure of Duchess Scarlet appeared from the shadows. She was glad to meet the Standen couple. It was a great honor for Viscountess Standen to meet Milady Scarlet. The woman should have greeted her first, but was busy with her daughter. Why is the girl frozen? Let Evelyn greet Duchess Scarlet. However, the baby hid behind her mother and began to whine even louder. The mother's eyes immediately turned steely, and her voice sounded so threatening that Evelyn immediately ran forward and bowed. The baby's voice was trembling. Her body was not obeying her at all. Evelyn was on the edge. This had to stop. Could Viscountess Standen take her daughter by the hand? What? The Duchess apologizes for interfering, but they are in a very difficult situation here. Madame Standen must surely already be aware that Milady Scarlet had encountered similar situations many times before. Among the court aristocracy, working as a governess is not something to be proud of, but it can be useful. Come on, let the Viscountess take her daughter's hand. That's it. Good work. The mother's face clearly looked confused. She was extremely embarrassed, but she was also unable to cope with her child. And today is such an important day. Madame Standen was clearly worried about the reputation of her house. The Duchess has one request from now on. Could Madame Standen be gentler with Evelyn? She really needs it. With all due respect, the Viscountess knows very well what it is like to be a mother, unlike the young Duchess. Madame Standen had brought up her daughter well and did not need advice. Then the baby's cry was heard again. Evelyn was choked with tears. She couldn't stop. Quieter. Why did the girl start crying again? After all, at home, Evelyn is an incredibly obedient and exemplary child, so here she behaves like a capricious and ill-mannered child. And what to do with this child, because Evelyn prepared and tried so hard for so long before the spring ball. First, you should calm the girls down and give them a sense of security, that mom is nearby and nothing terrible has happened. And the baby is always nervous around strangers. Maybe that's the problem. Evelyn was a shy child since childhood, and the Viscountess could not devote much time to her. Perhaps then the girl would not have been so timid, but that is not the point at all. Viscountess Standen's daughter is just scared right now. The girl is not at all shy. How scary it is, but why? The Viscountess was furious, once again forgetting about the unstable condition of her child, what the Duchess wanted to say now. Evelyn began to reach for the hem of her mother's dress in fear the Viscountess would never harm her daughter. Milady Scarlet understands perfectly well that Madame Standen wants a better future for her child. She wanted to protect Evelyn from the difficulties of life in the capital, so the Viscountess organized comfortable conditions for the child, away from all this noise and anxiety. The Duchess knows that Madame Standen is a very successful businesswoman, and she had to devote a lot of time to her work. And also to communicate with a lot of people, and this also affected the baby, right? Viscount Standen left his family. Evelyn remembers the moment of farewell to her father. After the death of her husband, Madame Standen realized that the responsibility for the future of her child rested on her shoulders. Evelyn should have the opportunity to live a bright and happy life. The widow decided to change their current situation at all costs for the sake of this girl. So soon Viscountess Standen began to go to all sorts of consultations in search of knowledge. Madame really devoted a lot of time and attention to her path of development, but none of this could harm her daughter. The Viscountess always kept Evelyn close to her despite her busy schedule. And how did the girl react to the Viscountess's guests and her business partners? This is very important now, but the Duchess said that it was not a matter of shyness, but of fear. The daughter didn't particularly like to welcome guests to their estate with her mother. She always looked for some kind of excuse. However, the mother still dragged the little girl to the main entrance because she had already warned her guests about Evelyn. The Viscountess always boasted of her girl's manners and was happy to demonstrate them to the public. Evelyn needs time. She needs to adapt to a large audience at her own pace. The Viscountess kept repeating that her daughter was lagging behind her peers and should work harder. This is a lot of pressure for a child, and his mother saw herself as a heroine who was trying for Evelina's future. The mother's ambitions put too much pressure on her daughter's fragile psyche after all. Evelyn did not grow up in the capital but in a quiet and cozy county, and the Viscountess demands from her according to the capital's standards. Evelyn is afraid that she will not live up to her mother's expectations. She needs support. Let Madame Standen show the girl that the most important thing for her is Evelyn herself and not her success in the capital's society, then the girl will calm down. The Viscountess took her daughter by the hand, let the little girl try to greet the Duchess again, and her mother would support her. The charming girl made a graceful curtsy and greeted her ladyship, stating her full name. Well, it's a different matter when a mother supports her child. His fears immediately disappear. Mother doesn't need to worry about anything. Evelyn will greet all the guests just as she taught her. The Viscountess is not worried at all. She suggests leaving the party early and spending time just the two of them. From now on, Madame Standen will be more attentive to her child. What an eye bomb! Now all of Evelyn's important characteristics have returned to normal. The level of joy and calm is stable. There was still a lot of work to do for this family, but a start had already been made. The Viscountess gave the Duchess a meaningful look. And for the future, Ryra needs to learn not to interfere in other people's affairs. But what can a girl do with her curiosity? She spends her whole life pestering others with her unsolicited advice. At least here she has the skill to really help. The little Duchess watched from the shadows of the scene in the Imperial Garden. Several days have passed since the spring ball, and Ryra has returned to her daily routine. The butler announced to the Duchess that the carriage of the House of Valencia had arrived at their residence. The little Duchess decided to take up a little of the newly minted aristocrat's time. The main character sighed heavily. She couldn't refuse to meet Ryra. All she could do was listen to her. Vivienne Valencia gracefully swam out of her carriage, and what was this girl up to this time? Welcome to the Duchy of Scarlet. Miss Vivienne is grateful for your time despite her sudden request. Why don't the ladies go inside the residence? Maybe the girl wants tea or something sweet. Here the Duchess's attention was drawn to Vivienne's indicators, and the level of sympathy rose a little, which is surprising. Why does Milady Scarlet look at the girl like that, and why does Vivienne suddenly start to treat her better is very interesting. Lady Ryra has ordered some light snacks and desserts to be prepared. Perhaps the little Duchess would like to enjoy them with her tea. The sympathy stat went up again, so that's how it is. The stats increase when Ryra talks about sweets. This means that the little pest likes everything sweet so much, after all. She is still such a child. Last time Lady Vivienne created misunderstandings and some problems, that's what she calls it. For this reason, the girl would like to apologize to Duchess Scarlet personally. The girl put her cup on the table and asked her guest to share the real reason for their meeting. Somehow the Duchess doubts that the girl was tormented by conscience and was worried about Ryra's condition. Let Duchess Valencia say it straight and openly. She is here to take the furry baby back. A deafening silence fell over the room. Come on. Vivienne's motive was obvious. There is another motive. It turns out that Becky was raised by their young maid. Ryra is already starting to believe her, yeah. Since people rarely visited the garden maze, the maid thought she could keep everything a secret. The fluffy baby is very friendly even with strangers. The little Duchess was told about this by the maid when the girl began to tell the truth. Here, Becky's toy appeared at Vivienne's feet, and her little companion immediately turned pale. So this charming little one was raised by a maid, that's exactly it. Lady Valesia herself is surprised at how the maid came up with such an absurd idea. Of course, the young Duchess has already given the maid a scolding, so the girl hopes for understanding from Duchess Scarlet. The main character does not consider the maid's actions stupid at all. She just needed a friend, and there is no better friend than Becky. Moreover, the little guest mentioned that the maid was young, and for this period such actions are quite natural. That is, the newly minted Duchess believes that age can justify stupidity and thoughtlessness. Not at all, that's not what the girl was talking about. Wanting to take care of someone is not something stupid. The need for a friend, the need for warmth, self-giving, this only says good things about that girl. Becky was wearing a very expensive collar with a personalized medallion, a soft leather item hardly affordable for a simple maid. This approach to caring for a furry baby seems very responsible, especially for a child. How wonderful these babies are, so small and sweet, they are like fluffy clouds. Where did Lady Daisy get these little ones? I just want to cuddle these teddy bears. They are truly adorable. They are a newly developed breed from the Duchy of Radium. Their home will be introducing them to the public for the first time. Wow. In his youth, Daisy's father studied for a time in the Duchy of Radium and still maintains friendly ties with them. What hypocrisy. Daisy's father was sent there. How stupid all these girls are. Maybe one of the ladies wants to get a furry friend. Father allowed to give puppies to close friends, of course. The ladies will be happy to take care of them. And what about her ladyship? If Lady Valesia wants a friend, she can choose first. Vivian is grateful for such courtesy, but the Duchess's mother is categorically against furry friends. How can you be against such cuties? Besides, these little ones are incredibly smart. The breeder also said that this breed is incredibly calm and comfortable. One of the little ones started to wrestle with the blanket, lifting the pink pads up. Just look at this cuteness. In general, playfulness is natural for this breed, although in the morning all the babies behaved quite calmly. However, it would be better to return this puppy to the kennel, as he is different from his brothers and sisters. By the way, Lady Daisy brought with her exquisite varieties of tea. Vivian's heart sank. What will happen to this wonderful child? How can you dispose of the lives of such defenseless creatures like that? With any luck, this little one will return to the nursery, but Vivian has a hard time believing that. At that moment, the little Duchess faced a choice, or rather, the girl simply could not act differently. A wonderful sunny day. The garden labyrinth of the Duchy of Valesia, a loud bark was heard among the trees. The baby needed to be quiet so they wouldn't be discovered. Becky immediately pricked up his ears. Vivian disobeyed her parents for the first time to save this little one. The girl was very afraid, but when the baby looked at her, he dispelled all doubts and fears. Who would have thought that such a miracle could bring so much happiness and warmth? Vivian immediately fell in love with her secret friend with all her soul and could no longer imagine her life without Becky. This baby became everything to the little aristocrat, so for the first time in her life she took a risk and went against her mother. The young Duchess clenched her fists. She would have to apologize for her rudeness and take the baby to her residence. After all, Lady Vivian doesn't want her maid's puppy to bother Duchess Scarlet. In that case, what will await this miracle upon returning to the Duchy of Valesia? Vivian is going to continue to raise Becky in the garden secretly. The baby will still be found one day. The girl knows this very well. Here they are, the eyes of a child who does not know support and understanding, who sees only threats and challenges everywhere. Vivian needs to understand that at her age, some carelessness is quite acceptable. Why deprive yourself of it? This year the girl will only be 11 years old. This is a period of desires, so let her enjoy it. Vivian never spoke about her desires. From early childhood, her mother kept repeating that Vivian had imperial blood in her veins, and that every step she took should lead their house to greatness. The future of her mother, that is, her family and home, depends only on her daughter. She has no right to stumble. Vivian must not allow anyone to look down on her mother, and thus their family. Since childhood, the girl did only what was necessary for the good of their home, but what about her desires? Then the doors of the hall swung open, and a joyful little boy, Becky, ran into the room, which is what Vivian does with all her heart. The fluffy little one immediately recognized his human and rushed towards the girl. The Duchess ran to meet him. Vivian began to stroke her friend, whom she missed so unbearably. The little Duchess had asked the baby to be careful, and tears began to stream down Vivian's cheeks. Despite the fact that the girl knew that Becky would be discovered sooner or later, she still tried to do everything so that the baby had absolutely everything. Caring for someone without compensation is truly worthy of respect, isn't it? However, if Duchess Felicia takes the baby back to her duchy, problems may soon arise. Ryra offers her help until the situation changes. In this case, the young Duchess will be able to visit her friend whenever she wants, and there will always be delicious desserts for her in Scarlet's house. In the meantime, the little lady will have time to figure out what to do next with her parents. It seemed that Vivian had finally understood why the newly minted Duchess had irritated her so much all this time. The girl has absolutely nothing to worry about. Everyone is happy here for Becky. Everyone takes care of him and loves him. The baby will be safe here. Next to this girl, Vivian feels like a child, which was unacceptable all this time in her mother's opinion. Let the baby not be too bored. Lady Vivian apologizes for the inconvenience caused to her. When Duchess Scarlet told her guest that she would wait for her at any time, she was not joking, so let the little lady look into their duchy whenever she pleases. It's still too early to relax with this girl, but at least Ryra made a hole in her wall today. What a relief, the girl was already beginning to seriously worry about Becky's fate, but fortunately, Vivian really loves this little one. Here the girl's consciousness was illuminated by a bright flash. Her body rose into the air. What was happening? And as Ryra descended to the ground, what was the matter? Then a notification appeared in front of the heroine. The task is to make a precious person happy, then unexpected luck will await Ryra. Before this, notifications appeared that only described the characteristics of the child. This is something new. And what is meant here by fulfilling the condition, and who is sending all this to Ryra? Someone is watching her. This requirement appeared after she established a relationship with Vivian, which means the task is directly related to this girl. Although maybe not. If the assignment was about Vivian, then it would have said so, right? Everything has become even more confusing, and we need to properly understand and make sure of everything. Every child has a happiness index. Apparently the girl needs to raise this indicator. So Vivian Valicia, Rebecca Brocia, Luna Hedden now have a full happiness index, but Christian Emmett Molt has an empty one. What is generally known about the protagonist's younger brother, Christine is possessed by some kind of demon. If this little devil is part of Ryra's mission, the girl is in big trouble. How can she get into the temple, break in under cover of night and free a demon-possessed child? What does this world want from her? There was a knock on the bedroom door. The butler entered the room. Something happened. The Duchess has nothing to worry about at all. His lordship has just returned from his trip. Davion is finally home. A handsome young man stood on the balcony and looked at the serene landscape. There were many thoughts in those gloomy eyes that didn't give Davion any peace for a minute. The last task was indeed difficult and hectic. The knight called my Lord Scarlet to look at their destination. The young man's face immediately distorted in horror, which was what Davion feared most of all. Among the clouds of smoke, the smell of burning and charred flesh, there were traces of the darkened. And the darkened ones were not heard from since the 10-year war. They crawled into the shadows and did not return. Why did the darkened ones suddenly decide to crawl out of the darkness? Is something bad really coming? All that remains is to report everything that happened to His Highness and monitor the situation in the surrounding lands. The joyful heroine ran into the room. How happy she was about the arrival of her husband. How Davion felt. To be honest, Ryra was very worried that the young man would be gone for a long time, but time flew by. By the way, even though there was little time, the girl was able to get acquainted with Davion's book. The Duchess was so pleased to know that her husband had written this book for her personally. How did the young man manage to do this given such a tight deadline? Apparently, only real hard workers can become magicians. First of all, talent is required. Not everyone can do it, but persistence is also important. In order to become the greatest mage, Davion must have worked very hard and long. As expected from the young phenomenon, the other magicians are not even able to resist the gifted genius. So the main character is confident that Duke Scarlet has overcome many obstacles on his way. By the way, since the girl is returning the book, she left a short review. While reading it, Milady noticed one interesting moment. The main character took out a small piece of paper from the book. Ryra says about it, exactly like that. The girl wrote it spontaneously, enjoying reading it, but Davion doesn't have to read it. The handsome young man clutched a piece of paper in his palm. Davion would definitely read it. The girl's face immediately lit up. How incredible he was. Each time he worried her more and more. The Duchess is grateful to Davion for his attention. She is very pleased, and also because my lord is looking after her. This makes some kind of warm feeling spread throughout Ryra's body. The girl is sure that he has little free time at work, that's true. But still, Davian found the time to write a book especially for her that's priceless. And Ryra sincerely enjoyed her reading. The young man's eyes widened in surprise. With each conversation, Davian changed, his features softening, his voice becoming more caring, his eyes more attentive. The young man looked away in embarrassment, but Ryra immediately followed him. She had already learned this gesture well. What's the matter? Why is the girl looking at Davian like that? He noticed that he had one cute habit. As soon as my lord begins to feel embarrassed, he immediately lowers his beautiful eyes to the floor. Just like now, how can you be so perfect in everything? Even Davian's aloofness makes him so sweet and approachable. The young man's cheeks turned red, which made the Duke suddenly fall silent. Everything was fine. The main character's face suddenly became gloomy and worried. What was wrong? Ryra said something wrong. The girl often crosses personal boundaries. She did not want to embarrass the milord. Davian should ask her forgiveness. The heroine's face immediately turned pale, and now she becomes scared, and for what reason? The main character regrets that he underestimated her social skills, for which he would like to apologize. Apparently, Davian scared me when he said those words about not expecting anything grand from his wife. The head of the duchy was informed that during his absence, the carriage of Lady Valesia the Younger had arrived at the residence. And also that Rhaera managed to establish friendly relations with Madame Standen during the spring ball. The girl did not waste time and built the necessary connections. Everything was wrong. Rhaera simply looked at her secret cheat sheet and did everything according to it. This was a very kind and noble gesture on the part of the newly minted Duchess, but now Rhaera felt ashamed. To tell the truth, she still hadn't adapted to the capital's society, and she didn't even try. Rhaera was just hiding. Her friendship with Viscountess Standen was an accident and the result of her secret skill, not a personal achievement. And the same goes for Duchess Valesia. The girl accidentally stumbled upon her dear Becky. To be honest, the young man can't understand why Rhaera always gets involved in other people's problems. This was the case in the real world too. Apparently, this was how she tried to escape her own life. Most people help only for their own benefit, but the Duchess had no personal interest here. This is personal interest, an escape from one's own dissatisfaction, a desired oblivion. The main character turned the pages of his author's book with enviable interest. Today, his lordship is particularly keen on reading This is the Teaching on the Formation of Aesthetic Standards. What, that is, the greatest magician and hero of the empire is so enthusiastically reading a book about beauty and fashion. In essence, this is a list of capital beauty standards. It's a fashion magazine or something. But surely this reading is connected with magic. Not at all. This reading is purely everyday. Aaron will pretend he didn't see anything after all. All geniuses are eccentric and have their own oddities. Fashion is not the worst option. The main character was interested in which paragraph exactly the review was written about. It says here that the shorter a man's legs are, the more attractive he is. But in Davian's case, that's not true. And in general, one cannot limit aesthetics to general understandings and fleeting whiffs of fashion. In fact, all the Duchess's actions are to her advantage, and she benefits from helping others. In this case, Milady should have received monetary compensation or useful connections. Rhaera feels good when restless souls stop feeling fear, pain, and loneliness. When people transform and spread their wings after the veil of despair, the heart beats faster. Doesn't the joy and happiness of other people warm the soul? So all this is necessary for the girl herself. These words of the Duchess did not give the protagonist any peace. He constantly returned to them in his thoughts. So Rhaera brings joy, happiness, and peace to others. That is the price of her actions. The handsome young man smiled. That's why she helps others without any material gain. Madame Standen is grateful to the Duchess for responding to such a sudden request. The newly minted aristocrat does not often have the opportunity to meet representatives of other noble families. This family is very worried about the condition of their child. After the story of the Viscountess, they wanted to meet with Milady Scarlet. Rhaera will definitely help the child because she has a secret gift that tells in detail how to improve his condition. The owner of the estate is named Sophia. She is very happy to meet Duchess Scarlet. This yellow dress looks incredible on the guest. And the Duchess herself is so sweet, it's no wonder the Grand Duke chose her. These are Count and Countess Hartmann, who have been friends with Viscountess Standen since childhood and completely trust her choice. The newly minted Duchess bowed. She was very pleased to meet you. And whether Count Hartmann met Milady Scarlet's husband, they were not able to formally talk. It seems like 2 years ago. The Count abruptly interrupted his wife. They should continue their conversation in a more comfortable environment. Let Milady Scarlet follow the Hartmanns. It was very strange. If this married couple met Davian 2 years ago, then he was not yet the Duke of Scarlet. The Countess could not even imagine that Melanie was experiencing such difficulties in raising her daughter. But with the help of Milady Scarlet, they managed to get out of the crisis situation. This is primarily due to the merit of Viscountess Standen herself. No, Madame Standen and Evelyn are very grateful to Mrs. Scarlet for her intervention. That day, mother and daughter could have become even more distant than usual. Now the Viscountess understands this. The main character is very happy that everything worked out and was resolved. Therefore, Madame Standen very much hopes that Duchess Scarlet will also be able to help her friends. The Hartmans have 2 sons. The eldest will be 6 years old this year. And the younger brother just recently turned 3 months old. The difference between the children is noticeable. Then the doors of the recreation room swung open and a little boy ran into the hall. That's where his mom and dad were. The maid asks for forgiveness. The young master runs too fast. No big deal. Elliot slept well. The time is right. Let your son say hello. This is Duchess Scarlet. The charming little boy nodded with dignity and introduced himself to the guest. So far, there are no problems. The boy's name is Elliot Hartman, the Earl and Countess are his parents, and the Duchess is friends with his mom and dad, right? The kid is right. Not much time has passed, but he and his mom and dad have already become good friends. In that case, let the lady take care of Elliot's mom and dad. The parents immediately caught a cold from emotion. How sweet and caring their son was. How lucky they were to have him. The girl doesn't understand anything. This ideal family could be filmed in an advertisement. Maybe there is something wrong with this child's indicators. Every single characteristic is normal. Oh no, what if it's not the older brother who needs help but the younger one? But what can Ryra do with a 3-month-old child? After that, Elliot has a drawing lesson. He will draw his family. It is worth listening to the parents first. Then the cry of the youngest child was heard, and the Hartman family jumped up in unison and pressed themselves to the floor. Well, Joel has woken up. The Countess needs to go to her son and check on him. The Duchess will wait here. Here the eldest son pursed his lip. The atmosphere around him began to change. It became oppressive and heavy. What's going on? Elliot was just having a wonderful time and now he's as dark as a storm. The girl was bombarded with warnings about a critical situation and that urgent measures needed to be taken to stabilize her condition. The level of stress, discomfort, sensitivity, despair, and resentment simply skyrocketed. The eldest son immediately grabbed his mother's dress. Where is his mother going? Everything is okay. She needs to check on Joel. Countess Hartman will quickly check on Joel and return, but their family friend is still here. Elliot still wouldn't let go of his mother, but his little brother had a nanny with him now, didn't he? And Mother promised Elliot that the nanny would look after Joel until the end of the drawing lesson. Even without Ryra's secret cheat sheet, it's clear what's going on. This is a classic case in a large family. And Elliot Hartman's case cannot even be called difficult or serious. Usually the eldest son behaves extremely diligently, but when it comes to Joel, he starts to act up. So the description says that Elliot loves his mom, dad, drawing and picnics, but he doesn't love Joel. He doesn't like the fact of his existence. But the parents didn't neglect their eldest son. They love and cherish him very much, so why does Joel make him so nervous? Meanwhile, the boy took the chalk in his hands and began to draw on a sheet of paper. There's another huge estate in the Hartmans' possessions. This is the rear part. Here, Elliot drew a picture of mom and dad, and this is the boy himself. They have a very happy family, don't they? Everyone in the child's drawing is indeed smiling, but the younger brother is not there. Before, the parents played with Elliot for hours. Dad played tag with his son, and when they got tired, Mom got out sandwiches. Then the family spent a lot of time together, and this is where the situation begins to become clear. But now this happens extremely rarely. Even the fun has left their home. And when Grandpa and Grandma come, they always come to look at him, and they are no longer interested in Elliot. That's why the boy wants nothing more than for his little brother to disappear. Well, what can I say? This is really a typical case when a younger child is born. The Count and Countess greeted Duchess Scarlet with a worried look. Well, how is their eldest? Elliot first drew and then immediately fell asleep as he was emotionally tired. And what will Milady Ryra say about the condition of their son, what happened to Elliot, and how to help him? The eldest son is not yet morally ready to accept his younger brother as a member of his family. What does it mean, not ready? Let the married couple answer the question. They were planning a second child. Of course, this was not something spontaneous and unexpected. Elliot's parents wanted to have a younger brother. As children, my parents themselves never felt bored, as they always had friends nearby. However, their son had no friends in the neighborhood, which worried his parents greatly. That's why the Hartmans decided to give Elliot a brother or sister, but the idea itself is wrong. But did the Count, Countess, and Viscountess get along right away? No, at first each played separately, and then the adults brought them together. Even though they didn't even know each other, at first all three felt uncomfortable. So that's the thing, that's exactly the feeling their eldest son is experiencing now, of course. Besides, although the parents say that they decided to have Joel for Elliot, which doesn't even sound very good, they didn't ask the boy himself about it. The younger brother's sudden appearance changed Elliot's usual and happy way of life. He also stole the attention of his parents and grandparents, which, in the opinion of their eldest son, was justified. Elliot began to feel abandoned, unnecessary, uninteresting to anyone, and his parents began to devote more time to Joel. They really do devote almost all of their time to their youngest son, which means that Elliot will hate him all his life. There is no certainty about anything, but there is no reason to worry yet. There is one thing parents can do for their children. Let them look here for a start. Count and Countess Hartman can make both their children's childhood happy and let them know that each of them is loved. The drawing by the Hartmans' eldest son depicted a cherry blossom tree under which they had a picnic and played. Maybe Elliot wants to play with his dad, of course. Ryra helped the Countess spread a blanket on the grass. What's the matter? Why is Madam so upset? If only the Countess had known that a joint picnic would please Elliot so much, she would have arranged it much earlier. Lady Hartman feels that she has been very inattentive to her eldest son and now feels guilty. Sophia didn't have any brothers or sisters. It's normal to not understand something you've never experienced. People succeed and make mistakes all their lives. The main thing is that they learn from their experiences. The newly minted Duchess has much more experience, judging by my communication with her. Have father and son come here, Elliot needs to look at something. Countess Hartman handed over a family photo to her eldest son. Who is this little guy? Is it Joel or something? Let the son look more closely. Mom's hair here is much shorter than it is now, right? The photo shows little Elliot. His parents carefully preserved this memory from his early childhood. So Mom and Dad only love little ones like Elliot in this photo, and like Joel now, this is not true at all. The parents were worried that Elliot would be sad and lonely without friends, so they thought that Joel's arrival would make him happy. After all, Mom and Dad always had friends when they were kids, and they never had to be bored or sad. Did their baby really think that his parents loved him less? But his mom and dad gave all their attention to Joel, even though he was making their lives harder, and Elliot was trying so hard to make his parents happy, but they didn't notice him. The eldest son is indeed right. Mom and dad should devote a lot of time to the newborn child. But when Elliot was the same age, his parents spent just as much time with him. Why does the boy not remember this at all? Did his mom and dad spend all their time and energy on Elliot? Of course, this couldn't be the case with the baby. He was still a tiny baby, having just been born. That is, the boy made life more difficult for his mom and dad. Not at all. These were pleasant chores. But Elliot spent a lot of his parents' time and energy, but his son gave them so much happiness. So the child made the parents happy, the baby made them the happiest. But Joel's birth doesn't make Elliot any less loved. Mom and dad will always love him with all their hearts. Son is one of those who knows how to share love, so why not teach this to Joel, even if he causes difficulties? And then the younger brother will surely love Elliot back, just like mom and dad. Elliot and Joel are their most beloved children, and there is nothing more beautiful in the whole world than them. In the meantime, the eldest son must understand that Joel needs time to learn to do everything on his own, like Elliot. The image of Christian Molt, imprisoned in the temple, appeared before my eyes. The child was there all alone. What was going on inside him? I wish I could help this boy too. Is there really no such way in a world where there is magic? You need to weigh everything carefully and think it over thoroughly. The main character got out of the luxurious carriage and approached the main, forged gates. This is the very place. The Moon Garden, an institution that issues letters of nobility and coats of arms, and an archive that systematizes the history of each noble family. There should be information about Christian here. Lady's name, please, Daisy Mo Rudin. Sorry, friend. Under the name of a friend, the girl easily got into the archive. You need to look for everything under the name Molt. There were many different books, biographies, documents on the bookshelves, but what Ryra was looking for was not there. This can't be. The archive is the only place where this information can be stored. Ryra grabbed a suitable book, but it was immediately intercepted by someone's hand. What the hell? In front of her stood a dazzlingly handsome young man in a white cassock. He must have been a temple minister. This young man seems to emanate light and warmth. Standing next to him is so calm and cozy. The stranger broke into a wide smile. My lady is interested in this book. Judging by his appearance, this guy is a priest in the temple. The Duchess thanked the young man for his help. No need. Taking care of the visitors is his direct responsibility. This young man's aura is suitably divine. He is simply glowing. The girl is staring at the young man again. It's time to start controlling herself. We need to get back to the main goal for which the girl came here today. So what do we have here? Meldon, Metlock, Middletown, Midnight, Melcardio, and where is the name Molt? Why is there no surname of Davion's father and younger brother in the archive? The lady is looking for some specific information. It may be that the birth records were lost. If we are talking about an aristocratic family, there are two possible options. Either this genus ceased to exist, which is unlikely, but what is the second option? Well, or access to information about this kind is closed for review. If an aristocrat loses his title, the records about him are erased and all books with references are moved. This would explain why the main character stopped using the surname Molt and became Davion Scarlet. The temple minister asks for forgiveness for not even introducing himself to the guest. The boy's name is Eurycian. Stop doing this. The girl really could go blind. Wait, now I need to introduce myself to Ryra, but she can't give her real name, much less her husband's last name. Seeing the lady's confusion, Eurycian suggested that she introduce herself next time if it was so inconvenient for her now. And that it was possible. It was so convenient because it was completely unknown whether they would cross paths with this young man again. Priest Eurycian will pray for good luck to the young lady. Ryra is very grateful to him. If all the priests are so kind and beautiful, then we can stay in this world. Ryra again at his own. How much longer can we go on? The polite attendant followed the guest with his eyes until she left the archive. A very interesting case, an aristocrat with divine powers worth thinking about. So, any information about Christian's lineage is unavailable, and it is possible that the Molts have ceased to exist. But if this is really so, then why was the disappearance of the family not affecting the main character in any way? Unfortunately, the girl is not in a position to enter the temple and simply ask directly. But then, did Davion not keep any records of his lineage? Suddenly, the girl will manage to find at least some information in the library of the family estate. Why does Ryra feel like she's crossing someone else's boundaries without permission again? But at the end of the day, she just wants to help Davion's little brother, so what's wrong with that? Is there anyone here? Wow, and how can I find information here? It's a whole labyrinth. Okay, first we need to go through the appropriate names. The library doors creaked. The main character sighed tiredly and went inside. And why were the library doors open? Davion definitely closed them, and besides him, no one else is here. Then I heard snoring. What the hell? Duchess Scarlet was lying on the sofa. What is Ryra doing here? And why is the girl sleeping in the library and not in her bedroom? The Duke should wake her up. Otherwise, my lady will suffer from pain in her neck and back. The young man reached out his hand to Ryra, but she turned over onto her other side. Davion's hand accidentally touched her cheek. It was very awkward. Something had to be done. The main character slowly and carefully removed his hand from the sleeping woman's face and breathed a sigh of relief. Ryra snored contentedly. Such an enviable serenity, I don't want to disturb her. Meanwhile, the little Duchess of Valesia enjoyed her privacy in the residence. The girl missed her furry friend very much and looked through Becky's photos. Then a shrill female scream was heard. Well, where is Vivian? Oh no, the girl put the photo aside. Her mother entered the room. The Duchess had already returned, which meant already it sounded as if the woman had returned too early. For the first time in a long time, Mother went on holiday to visit Grandma, and Vivian thought that they would be able to spend more time together. In fact, the mother became completely obsessed with her social status, which is why her father sent her away. What did Mother miss? What social news? She should know everything, by the way. Here they whispered to her about a certain Duchess Davion. The Grand Duke married a dirty governess, and no one wanted to keep her company at the ball. Unlike her mother, Lady Ryra has a noble origin and nature. The Duchess hopes that her daughter has not seen this impostor again. Vivian answered through clenched teeth that she had never seen the Duke of Scarlet's wife again. Let her daughter understand this clearly. Ryra is the daughter of a miserable baron. The benefit of communicating with her is zero. Such acquaintances can only tarnish the reputation of their house. Mother said that it is impossible to hide the quality of upbringing. There is no need to even talk to this woman about it. A village girl dressed up in a dress and pretends to be a lady. What could be more disgusting? Vivian has one option. It's a good thing the Duchess herself wasn't at the Imperial Spring Ball. Yeah, her father sent her away so she wouldn't disgrace herself once again. The girl understands that her mother cares about Vivian. This is all only for her future. The little Duchess knows how much her mother loves her and how much she needs her. How could she not know Vivian simply isn't allowed to forget about it for a second? Mother must be very tired on the road. Let her rest here. Her daughter will bring refreshing tea. Vivian is such a good girl. Let her continue to make her mommy happy, yeah. This girl will finally provide the woman with a future worthy of her. The future she so deserves. The aristocrats will recognize her as their own, no matter what it costs her. The obsessed Duchess's attention was drawn to one letter on the table, on which was the seal of the Duchy of Scarlet. Meanwhile, the morning came. The adorable baby was playing with Ryra's golden locks. The furball gently ran its paw over the girl's face. Ryra sighed heavily. Did she really fall asleep? What a shame. When the Duchess woke up today, she was already in her bed, which means they didn't wake her up, but simply carried her to her bedroom. How awkward it is now in front of Davion. It is worth apologizing for the inconvenience in front of him. Then the butler entered and announced the arrival of a certain guest to the Scarlet Duchy. It's very strange, because today Milady Ryra was definitely not expecting anyone to visit. In the waiting room on the first floor stood a stately young lady with a piercing gaze, Countess Meunier. Madame Meunier apologizes for her sudden visit to Scarlet's residence. No big deal. The Countess was too worried and in a hurry, and that is why she committed such tactlessness. Wait a minute, it was this woman who adopted the younger sister of the charming Pin. The boy had to lie to the only person close to him so that everything would work out for this woman. And perhaps today, the girl will finally be able to convey the words of sweet Pin. Countess Meunier heard numerous rumors that the newly minted Duchess was solving problems within the family. Madame understands that her visit is unceremonious, but she is forced to ask for advice. Duchess Scarlet knows about the orphanage at the foot of Carba Hill, where Madame adopted Lucy. Milady Meunier does not know how her words will sound, but Lucy is so timid and shy that the Countess is worried about her. Apparently, these changes are related to Lucy's stress and experiences. The girl was not like this at all when she was around her older brother. As a result, after separation, both children suffer and lose themselves, trying to escape from a frightening reality. Most likely, Duchess Scarlet will find Madame Meunier's concerns groundless. But this girl is too reserved and withdrawn. It shouldn't be like that. When I first met Lucy, the girl was different. She laughed and played so cheerfully. The Countess and the Count had their own daughter, but she died too early, which means Madame Meunier is trying to replace her with Lucy. My own daughter was beautiful and strong, like an angel descended from heaven. Madame Meunier asks for forgiveness. It is difficult for her to contain her emotions. This is absolutely normal. Countess Meunier met Lucy completely by chance. Her carriage took a wrong turn and was forced to take a detour. While driving around the territory of Carba Hill, a loud, childish laugh was heard, and then the woman saw a girl. A charming, joyful little girl who looked at everything with wide-open eyes and a smile. And then the Countess saw in this girl the image of her own daughter. One cannot replace one child with another. This is a very bad reason. The Countess's husband agreed to accept Lucy into their family, but refused to take a boy into the county, as this would create problems with the inheritance. At first, the woman had to give up this thought, although Lucy did not leave her head. After all, in essence, Countess Meunier wanted to separate the two closest people only because of her greed. Just as the woman decided to give up on the idea, she received a letter from the shelter on the hill. This letter said that the older boy was adopted separately from his sister. Poor Ping did everything to ensure that Lucy had a chance at a happy future. This boy lied to his sister and her adoptive parents, causing himself so much pain just to make Lucy happy. Madame Meunier decided to give this girl the best, even though she was not her biological daughter. And now it is not easy for the woman to understand where the mistake was made on her part, why Lucy has changed so much. The main character would like to meet the girl in person, with Countess Meunier's permission, of course. Ryra invited the worried mother and child to the Scarlet Duchy the very next day. Milady Scarlet is very glad to see Madame Meunier again. The Countess is grateful to her for the invitation. Madame Meunier would like to introduce to her Grace her charming daughter Lucy Meunier. The Duchess is delighted to meet the little girl and is grateful that Lucy has visited her estate today. And this is Countess Hartmann. The boy's name is Elliot Hartmann. He is the eldest son in the family, and the boy also lost a tooth this morning. Lucy's condition may improve if she spends time with her peers, but the girl greeted Elliot without much enthusiasm. Elliot blossomed before our eyes, but with him everything was as simple as a textbook. But with Lucy, the situation is much more complicated. Duchess Scarlet's food is so delicious, to be honest. Despite the fact that Rhaera has spent her whole life pestering others with her expert opinion, her advice has been of little use. She had no idea what the best course of action would be, considering herself an expert, but in this world she has a miraculous cheat sheet. The girl did not follow the conversation at all. She was not interested in anything. Lucy is fine. Well, yes, her clothes are not dirty. Strange answer. But Countess Menier was not asking the girl about this at all. She was worried about Lucy's apathy. The poor girl has absolutely no idea what to do. She worries and gets scared over little things. In general, a child usually becomes wary of a parent if something bad has happened in the family. It is worth taking a closer look at this family, and even better not to jump to conclusions on your own. You just need to trust the magical guide of Lucy's soul? What is this? What is this inner voice? Children didn't have this characteristic before. The girl's condition worsened right before our eyes. Lucy looked like a naked lump of nerves and fears. According to the little girl's inner voice, her greatest fear is that she will be abandoned again. How is Pin? Duchess Scarlet decided to visit him again. Something happened. That's not the point at all. The girl just wanted to ask her about the shelter's affairs. The boy doesn't really believe this. Let the lady lay it all out as it is. They recently talked about Ping's younger sister, which means Madame was able to see Lucy. She's fine after all. The girl is doing well, she eats well, and has managed to learn a lot during this time. This is great news. As Pin initially thought, her little sister deserves to grow up in a good family. And not here. The little fists involuntarily clenched. Countess Menier said that Lucy was too kind. Her brother had told my lady so. My little sister has always been like this. She's like a little angel. In fact, Lucy is so kind that she doesn't even want to talk about what she doesn't like. The girl's new parents want to give Lucy all their love without reserve, but this is wonderful. That's right, but the little sister can't allow herself to accept the love of her new family. Tears streamed down the boy's cheeks. It was all his fault. Pin always told Lucy to be obedient. If they cry, they will be punished. If they are capricious, they will be kicked out. Pinu should not have repeated this so often. When the children were together, they had no reason to cry, and this was definitely not the boy's fault. There is so much true courage, dedication, and nobility in him that it is hard to believe. He can't blame himself. Pin remembers what he wanted to tell his little sister. He can tell her everything in person. Countess Menier has arrived in the Scarlet Duchy once again, and Rhaera is delighted to see her dear guests. Madame Menier should apologize for causing so much trouble to her ladyship. Little Lucy, as charming as ever, immediately hid behind the hem of the Countess's dress. Thanks to Madame Menier's help, today is a very important day for the girl. Lucy took a step back. Milady Scarlet invites her little guest into the dining hall. Come on, let her be bold. One very important guest for the girl has already been waiting for her arrival, as this auntie says. So the dishes will be brought very soon. The duchy has an incredible chef. Rhaera is delighted with him. There is a very large carrot harvest this time, and Milady Rhaera hopes that her guests will like them. The girl didn't even raise her eyes to the adults. She continued to look fearfully at her plate. Countess Menier sighed heavily, looking at her child. What was wrong with her? Exquisite dishes of fresh carrots were placed on the table, and a spicy aroma filled the dining room. Carrot stew, carrot croquettes, carrot cake and juice. Bon appetit, everyone. There's nothing on the table except this nasty carrot. Lucy doesn't want to eat it. But if the girl refuses and starts to be capricious, then she will be refused again. She must eat it. Lucy clearly doesn't like carrots, but she eats them out of fear, trampling on her desires. Stress and depression levels have risen, and Lucy is literally on edge. Well, of course, the poor girl almost threw up, but she continued to chew the hated carrot. Little Miss doesn't like this dish because Lucy really loves carrots. The girl would gladly eat another portion. This is all an outright lie, this voice. Pin covered his little sister's plate. Lucy hates carrots. Even the smell makes her sick. Big brother. The little girl's voice trembled. All feelings were mixed in it, joy and fear, resentment and happiness. If the little girl promises to tell only the truth from now on, she will be able to have a snack of this dish. This is a delicate dessert with fresh berries and fruits, whipped cream and pistachios. If the little sister wants something specific, she should just say so. Everyone has different preferences. This is normal. However, if the girl continues to lie to those around her, she will only eat carrots. Or maybe the little sister just doesn't want to eat, but her brother knows what an appetite Lucy has. She always wants to eat. But this is dessert, and eating dessert before the main course is wrong. Well, finally the baby began to open up. Pin gives her unshakable support and reliable support. It's as if these children had never been separated at all. The girl has absolutely nothing to fear. The family cares about Lucy's wishes. Let the little one try the dessert if she wants. It looks very tasty. Everyone must take into account their own desires and feelings. This is very important, otherwise you can lose yourself. The girl looked warily at Countess Menier. She didn't need to be perfect for them. Everyone is beautiful simply because they are who they are, and there is no other person like them in the whole world. Lucy took the dessert under the watchful eyes of those present and began to swallow it greedily. Well, that's another matter. It's very tasty. Or maybe the girl will want to return to carrot dishes. These desserts are incredibly delicious, so let my little sister always make them like this from now on. If a girl likes something, let her ask for more. If she doesn't like something, let her say so directly. Pin was still a child himself, so he had no idea how to raise himself and his little sister. He just tried to do everything so that they would survive. The older brother also lied that because of the girl's whims, he could not leave for another house. The boy just wanted the baby to live in love, be happy, and be well fed. That's why Pina had to be torn down so that Lucy could go on to her happy life. Even without an older brother, he was ready to pay such a price for her future. And Lucy thought that it was all her fault, that she was causing everyone nothing but trouble. That's why they refuse her. She's stupid. Lucy is the only member of Pina's family. As troublesome as a little sister can be, Lucy missed her beloved brother so much. Well, now both children know that they will always have each other. Their connection is unbreakable. This little hero took care of his younger sister all his life, did everything to make her feel good. Pin was beside himself when he lost Lucy and was worried about her condition. The boy wanted his little sister to know that he would always love her, even if they never saw each other again. Despite the distance that will now separate them, Pin will always be her older brother. And so the long-awaited meeting came to an end. The desserts were eaten. The boys cried their hearts out when Pin cried, who said that to Duchess Scarlet. So it seemed to the girl that this is exactly how fireworks should be launched into the sky tonight. The Countess invited Pina to watch the fireworks. Duchess Scarlet would gladly go with them, but she has things to do. The carriage for Mrs. Rara has already been served. Next time they will definitely watch the capital's fireworks together. The boy will wait, and he is also grateful to his aunt for helping them meet his little sister. How nice it is to see a happy smile on this boy's face. I wish everything was fine with him. The crew was already ready. It was time for the main character to return to the Scarlet Duchy. Pin said that today in the capital the magicians will launch fireworks and all the residents will gather to watch. This will be the first magical fireworks not only in the boy's life, but also in the girl's life. The magician's fireworks should be clearly visible from here, right? Then, behind the main character, heavy steps were heard, which Ryra already recognized well. A handsome young man entered the room, which meant Davian had already returned from another trip. Well, this is just wonderful. Ryra is so happy to see the Duke. Why is it that the young man still has strength after the journey? The protagonist nodded. That's great. Ryra took him by the hand and led him to the window, Davian just in time. The capital's festival will soon come to an end, which means that the fireworks will be launched any minute now. The night sky was decorated with shining stars, but no bright flashes appeared in it. And what exactly are the young people looking at now? Apparently, Ryra got something mixed up again. It's a pity. The Duchess was so looking forward to her husband's return. She was afraid that he wouldn't have the strength to watch the festive fireworks. So the girl waited at the window all evening for Davian to offer him to watch together, which meant that Ryra wanted to see the fireworks. Well, yes, it must be very beautiful. The young man made an elegant movement with his hand. A series of fantastic flashes immediately thundered in the sky. It was simply incredible. Ryra feels like a little child. What a fabulous sight. It's actually just a basic spell, so there's nothing surprising about it. Even novice wizards can apply this magical knowledge. With his foundation in fire and light manipulation, Davian is truly amazing. The girl had never seen such beautiful lights in her life, or people either. But she didn't say it out loud. Her gloomy eyes widened in surprise at why she admired such a trifle. The girl is so grateful to Davian, he gave her a real fairy tale. She is so amazing, her heart is open to everything and everyone, and her soul is filled with light from any surprise. That firework looks so much like the constellation Mercury, and that one resembles a huge jellyfish. So they say that the Duke of Scarlet's mansion was well lit last night, weren't they? The protagonist stated with a serious expression that this did not violate any laws of their empire. The ruler chuckled, of course, otherwise Duke Scarlet's case would have already reached court. So today the great magician is here because the temple has officially set a day for the ceremony. So that's how it is. They say that this will be the last day of the first month of Shadow. The date coincides with the day of Davion's little brother's visit, doesn't it? This is one of 2 opportunities to meet him in a whole year. For people who serve the gods, they are incredibly cruel. The emperor hopes that the young duke understands that nothing can be done. The temple also needs funds. After the end of a terrible war, the number of people who are loyal to the current ruler is growing rapidly. And the number of those who visit temples and bring donations is decreasing. That is why the priests use the only lever of pressure, the purification ritual. They hold a public cleansing of the demon-possessed once a year to incite fear of evil spirits in the hearts of the people and change the situation in their favor. With this terrible rite, the temple tries to restore its weakened influence. Of course, in such a situation, the younger brother of the greatest magician is the ideal tool. It is unlikely that the Duchess will find this spectacle tolerable. Hearing about Christian and seeing him in person are 2 very different things. But there is still time before winter, so let the good friend think carefully. For the first time, the main character was faced with a question to which he did not know the answer. This girl is filled with light and warmth. She is so kind to everything that surrounds her, always trying to help others free of charge. But if Ryra suddenly sees this, will there be enough light in her soul not to turn away? All parents always wish their children to be infinitely happy. Isn't that so? The noble ladies fully agree with Duchess Scarlet. This is the most important thing for any mother. If Elliot is as happy as he is now, Madame Sophie will need nothing more. In this world, the attitude towards children is different. The child's problem is the mother's shame, so most people just try to endure everything rather than solve it. And by bringing together women with similar problems and talking about their concerns, the situation becomes much better. In the future, Ryra will also make efforts to provide her with all possible assistance. Now these children are so happy. Elliot and Evelyn have already gotten along so well, it's just lovely. The girl found such a beautiful flower for her mother. Evelyn is such a good girl. She is having a good time. The little girl had a lot of fun. Elliot is so funny. They laughed and played a lot. Mother is very happy for her. And here comes her ladyship. Evelyn greeted Ryra without any fear this time. The sensitivity, satisfaction, stress, and comfort scores finally stabilized. The weather is so wonderful today, it just symbolizes children's joy. Let the kids take a rest in the shade of a tree. The main character was distracted by the carefree fun of the kids and knocked over a glass of wine. She is so clumsy. It's okay, Duchess Scarlet will be back soon. She needs to change. Let the dear guests enjoy their picnic for now. We need to change this dress quickly. It's like Ryra killed someone. I wonder what the main character is doing now. Wait, is that Davion in the garden or something? The handsome young man stood in the welcoming rays of the sun, his skin literally glowing. What a picture. Today, the fantastic young man returned to the duchy so early, Ryra got her dress dirty or got hurt. Or hurt someone else. That's what she thought. Her dress was like something out of a crime news report. Everything is fine. No one was hurt, and no one should have been. The Duchess was just inattentive as always, and that's why she dropped the glass of wine. So Ryra was forced to leave her guests and rushed to change her clothes. Here the main character suddenly knelt down in front of her, and Ryra's heart immediately sank in anticipation. And why was the heroine suddenly so agitated? Davion brought his hand to her hem and activated his magic. Magic can even be used to solve everyday problems, judging by the angle of the splash. It was clearly not Ryra who knocked over the glass of wine. So some people are causing problems for the Duchess. What kind of terrible atmosphere has appeared? Yes, it was little Madame Standen who ran past, and Ryra tried to catch her and knocked over the glass. She is only 6. A 6-year-old child is not a little one. In any case, everything happened absolutely by accident and without malicious intent. And the girl is sure of this. Well, of course Ryra asks for forgiveness for unnecessary concern. But the Duchess had nothing to apologize for. She just thought the young man was worried, so Ryra apologized. Davion shouldn't worry about such trifles. Let him have a good rest and enjoy this sunny day. And it's time for the main character to return to the guests. She is grateful to the Duke for the dress. This girl is definitely not used to sharing her problems with others. The last tea party turned into a mass boycott against the naive Ryra, and suddenly the same thing is happening now. Suddenly the Duchess is being bullied, and Ryra doesn't even understand it. She thinks that it's not out of malice. In that case, it is now very difficult for her to go through bullying alone and to contain the attacks. Well, the girl completely forgot to ask Davion if he would go to the hunting tournament. Although the main character always has a lot of work, so you don't even need to ask about it. The day of the hunting tournament arrived, knights came from all over the empire, and the inhabitants honored the majestic participants of the competition. Here, the crowd of noble maidens literally roared with delight. Are there really such beautiful people that for? The main character was sitting on a marble steed, and he was about to blind everyone around him with his magnificence. Why was Davian here? And why was Ryra suddenly so worried? There were so many people everywhere. This tournament was bigger than expected. The girl was so interested in examining everything here, but now her attention is focused only on him. So Lady Sophia and Madame Melanie departed for their summer estates. Little Vivian also sent a letter saying that she would not be able to attend the celebration today. Ryra wants to rest, but she can't even afford to relax because any step can lead to failure. And here is the newly minted Duchess of Davian. Lady Letitia accidentally noticed her among the crowd and decided to say hello. A longtime fan of Davian, who would have doubted it apparently, Milady Scarlet is all alone at the tournament. This envious snake's goals are literally written all over her face. Miss Letitia would like to welcome Duke Scarlet as well, but they will not see him at the tournament this year either apparently. Did the Duchess really come here alone? What a shame it can't be, those are hyenas. The solemn fanfares have sounded. The hunting tournament in the name of His Majesty is about to begin. Here, the crowd of participants was cut by a majestic figure on a white horse. What the? Seriously, the main character really decided to attend the hunt. But why? The fine rider jumped off his horse and began to adjust his equipment. But the butler said that his master never takes part in the hunting tournament. Ryra approached the young man, but the vile Letitia stepped right in front of her. She was so glad to see his lordship here. If the lady had known in advance that Lord Scarlet would be participating in the tournament, she would have prepared another handkerchief. Firstly, Duke Davian is not taking part in the competition, and secondly, even if he did, why would he need this lady's handkerchief? The crowd of onlookers immediately giggled at Letitia. Why was the lady imposing herself on the man like that? Where were her parents looking? Here he is, her handsome and straightforward as a pistol hero. Davian always speaks honestly and without embellishment. And the main character doesn't care at all about the opinions and feelings of other people. And Letitia twisted herself like that to flatter him. The lady was paralyzed with shock. Duchess Scarlet was grateful to the lady for the company. Without them, she would have been bored. The friend dragged Letitia to the tent. Have a nice time. Let all the scarves be placed. In essence, Davian stated in front of everyone that he was irritated by this girl's attention. What a wonderful day it was, and what the young man was doing here. How wonderful a hero this was? Davian came on a rented horse? He's serious about this now? Ryra seethed, but that wasn't what she asked, even though Milady had said that she felt better in high society. The Duke wanted to be on the safe side and make sure that the lady was actually having a good time, so the presence of the young man could be useful for Ryra, which means he was worried about her. So the main stage is about to begin. All participants and spectators need to gather in the central tent. The main character accompanied his wife to the tournament venue. The participants will be announced very soon. As soon as the married couple entered the central tent, the guests immediately began to whisper, wondering if that was the Duke of Scarlet. Here comes Duke Ferrez. His family is said to have close ties to the temple. The Duke gave Davian a venomous look. The Grand Duke could be understood. After all, he had never hunted on his own. However, the participation of Lord Scarlet himself in the tournament would add interest and significance, wouldn't it? But the greatest magician of the Empire will have to participate without his magic tricks. To demand that a mage not use magic, especially in the enemy's area, is very cowardly and low on the part of this Ferrez. The Emperor smiled, and Milord Ferrez, as always, expressed his expert opinion. However, the Grand Duke's thoughts were occupied with his wife, which is probably why he put on a ceremonial cloak, which would not be easy to participate in. They can't delay the start of the tournament for the sake of one participant and the whim of Duke Ferrez. Well, of course, but the rotten aristocrat has one idea. They will hold a competition on birds. In this case, the participants will not need horses, no special equipment is required, and the risk of injury is minimal. Sir Ferrez has a spare bow and arrows that the Grand Duke will provide if he wishes. The protagonist thinks that his participation will serve the interests of only one specific person. However, if this is what his lordship wishes, then my Lord Davian has no choice. What does it matter? Doesn't this old man in the crown adore and favor Davian? Why does the Emperor need this at all? The girl grabbed the Duke's hand. There is no need to do this. Davian doesn't have to. The young man already knows that he is the greatest and most powerful. This vile guy simply cannot come to terms with it. The protagonist slowly ran his hand through Ryra's hair. Why did the whole world freeze? Why was her heart about to break her ribs? This guy's expression is always calm, but there is so much warmth in this serenity now. It's as if Davian's silence is telling her not to worry and that everything will be fine. It must be unusual for a great magician, but isn't that the whole point? With the help of this bow, Duke Fairies won last year. What a pathetic, insignificant piece of trash. Davian doesn't use weapons, and this guy has been training for years. A steady breath and then a shot. Ryra is rooting for her husband with all her heart, but the chances of success are 0. Let my Lord Scarlet try to shoot at that elm tree in front. The main character pulled the bowstring and released the arrow. It fell next to him and stuck into the ground. This bow has a difficult character. It takes time to tame it. That's why this worthless guy slipped it to me. Can Ryra have this bow? She doesn't need time to learn how to use it like a bat on someone's bones. It's a shame that the lovely Davian has to go through all this. All participants, get ready and take your positions. The hypocrisy show is about to begin. The girl crossed her arms and began to mentally beg the young man to hit at least one of the targets. The judge walked out into the center of the field and held up a white dove. What the hell, are they going to shoot a bird? What barbarity! Let Fairies be the living target. As soon as the white bird soared into the sky, the judge announced the beginning of the hunting tournament. Judging by the expression on Davian's face, he also doesn't like what's going on here at all. If only all the participants' arrows would hit that damn Fairies, at least a couple, Ryra really asks. The participants began to shoot their arrows one by one, and the crowd froze in delight. What's going on there? It seems like the girl got distracted from the tournament and missed everything. It can't be. It's the arrow of the great Duke of Scarlet. My lord saved the dove and shot down Sir Ferris's arrow. How is this even possible? And isn't the Duke a magician? His arrow pierced right through the arrow of last year's winner. The rotten guy immediately roared with indignation. This boy can't shoot better than him. It's unfair. Let His Highness intervene. Duke Scarlet must have used magic to shoot like that. Knights who trained their whole lives can't do this. How can a magician shoot like that? Sir Ferris demands to invite the magicians and arrange a check. It is not difficult. There are a couple of them accompanying the ruler. However, the envious and humiliated old man must think carefully about what. If the mages confirm the fact that my Lord Scarlet did not use magic, then Faris will be accused of slander. Not to mention that at that very moment, his social funeral as a knight will take place. The vile Ferris backed away in fear. No one in the Empire would dare challenge the great magician. So the outcome of today's competition has been decided. What does Lord Scarlet think about it? The protagonist stepped forward and called his arrow, and a magic pillar struck the elm. The entire trail froze in fear. Everyone knew that Davian's power was immense and destructive. The distinguished guests began to move away from the vile instigator. But what's the matter? There was a whistle over Faris's head, and Davian's arrow was flying straight at him at breakneck speed. Frightened Faris screamed, ran back and fell. He was just joking. However, here, Davian instantly intercepted his arrow with one hand, preventing it from killing the scoundrel. There is no sense in killing a living being and certainly no nobility. As for Duke Ferris himself, how did this guy manage to intercept an arrow at such speed? He is even human. The girl stared at her winner in admiration. It was simply incredible. The protagonist carefully took Ryra's hand and led her away, so she wouldn't want to return home. What is this strange, exciting feeling that is spreading throughout her body? This guy has such an effect on her. This moment is simply beautiful. I wish it would never end. And when did the greatest magician and war hero learn to shoot a bow like that? In fact, Davian has been using a bow since early childhood. He just doesn't like to touch the weapon. And then the Duke got a mentor. Davian says about the head of the Tower of Magicians, that's right, his approaches are very unusual. Yes, he is perfect in everything and has no equal, but what impressed Ryra most was that he saved the bird. The people of the temple are desperately looking for their gods and their blessings, forgetting that it is the birds that soar highest into the sky. The young man only helped God's creation. It was a reminder to all those who had forgotten the true motives of their faith, as beautifully said. The girl is so grateful that Davian came here today. Thanks to him, life in high society becomes pleasant. The young man came to the tournament because he thought that Ryra would get into more trouble. If his presence actually helped the situation, then Davian is pleased. It really helped, by the way. The girl has one question for the Duke. Let him ask. Davian said he wanted to understand if he would be a hindrance to Ryra or a benefit. Why he said that? The Duke was told that his presence at the Imperial Ball could harm Milady. What nonsense. But who said such nonsense, and does it matter? Davian is right. However, let the young man just point his finger at this man next time. Ryra will have a good talk with him. Arguments with the imperial family almost never end well, so this is a bad decision. Was it really the emperor who said that? Yes, that very arrogant old man in the crown. In that case, perhaps the ruler meant something else, and the young people misunderstood him. Well, in the end, His Excellency always takes Davion's side and takes care of him in his own way. But Davion should know that Ryra is ready to beat up even the old man in the crown if he continues to talk such nonsense. The main character blushed and immediately smiled. Was Davion really smiling at her now? It was charming. The young man immediately put on the unshakable look of a mysterious hero of the empire. Ryra saw everything. The girl sees his happy face for the first time. It is nice to realize that not only Davion brings her happiness, but she brings him happiness too. The Duchess also heard that luck often favors those who smile a lot. If this is really true, then there are many good things in Ryra's life. In the future, Milady will try to share her good fortune with Davion as much as possible. Milord's smile suits him so well, it seems to illuminate everything around him, and his soul immediately becomes calm and warm. So hiding such a weapon of good nature from the world is simply a crime. Well, Davion is smiling again. He can no longer hide his wonderful smile from the girl. The day quickly gave way to a cool evening, and in the meantime, a new hero appeared in history. The rustling of the hem of a magnificent dress was heard in the hall, and the sounds of women's heels were heard. What brings the young lady here at this hour? The girl wants to apply to the magic department. So the miss is a magician, then why would she come here at all? Why are all the mages always so arrogant? My lady is in Rubidium for the first time, that's right. She rarely has the need to go out somewhere. The head of the magic department is here now. Duke Scarlet left his office for a while, that's how. Wait, what the heck? Does that mean Davion is now the head of the entire magic department? Of course, my lord is the greatest hero of the empire. A very rare man, without equal in many ways. Now my Lord Scarlet is with his wife. What did he say? That is, on top of everything else, Davion also got married. The news of the wedding of the greatest magician of the empire thundered in all the newspapers and homes. The wedding at Scarlet's house took place this spring, and who is this bride? The employee cannot say for sure. He only heard that the Duchess is the daughter of a minor baron. What that is, Davion's wife is a very ordinary woman and not a magician. Events take a very interesting turn. How timely the girl ended up here. The next morning, the newly minted Duchess of Scarlet received a huge number of letters. And Will is sure that this is all just for Ryra, that's right. The lady has made a huge number of acquaintances, but this is not so. After the hunt, the girl did not appear at any social event. Her ladyship greets Madame Riola of Henson, who are all these people anyway. The lady was impressed by the valor and nobility of Ryra's husband, and immediately after the competition, the Duke went to his wife. It was amazing. Everyone present felt the love and devotion in his gesture. That is, these are all letters from fans of her beautiful Davion, and he made a real splash at the tournament. What can I say? This young man is truly perfect in every way. He is the most cherished dream. And his smile is like some kind of miracle. It feels like a holiday. They figured that out, and thanks to the Emperor's tournament, the Duke now has a crowd of fans. And that's all the correspondence, that's it. The butler never saw any more letters. It's very strange. There has been absolutely no news from Vivian lately. The girl refused to attend the tournament and did not even respond to the request to visit her beloved baby. Something is wrong here. The Duchess really hopes that nothing bad happened to the little Duchess. Meanwhile, dark days came to the Duchy of Valesia, and the girl's mother, obsessed with power and recognition, returned to her domain. Torn letters were scattered on the floor around Vivian, and she was shaking with tears. A window appeared in front of the main character with a notification about the current status. Ryra has already gotten used to this window, but she doesn't understand its nature at all. And in general, lately it has begun to seem to her that all this is very reminiscent of magic, but she is not capable of magic. This window appeared before the girl the very moment she first opened her eyes in this dimension. But does magic of this kind exist? And where should she look for answers to her new questions? What a silly girl! Ryra is married to the greatest magician in this world, and she still asks who she should ask about the types of magic. I need to run to the beautiful Davion, and at the same time I'll have another reason to see him. And what is Duchess Scarlet doing here? They meet with Sir Aaron every time my lady comes here. Just don't let Milady Reyra think that Aaron spends all day lazing around and walking in the garden. There are a lot of events in spring and autumn, so there is plenty to do. Aaron is a hard worker. Otherwise, he and Davian would not have worked together. And by the way, where is her husband? Well, of course the head of the Ministry of Magic is now in his office. Aaron is seeing off Duchess Scarlet. Something happened, and Davian, as always, is very welcoming and eloquent. Nothing happened. The young man had nothing to worry about, he just had a question about magic. Who are magicians anyway? Every person is capable of becoming a wizard or not. The Duchess wants to learn magic. Not at all. Just the children from the orphanage on the hill asking. In theory, magic is available to absolutely everyone, but not everyone is capable of using it. The girl didn't understand anything. It turns out that anyone can become a magician. Not at all. Only those who are able to absorb mana inside the body can become mages. It sounds somehow ominous. And how is it done? Are there any symptoms or side effects? Is it generally painful? The mage does not experience anything like this, but in order to consume the mana of his own body, one must be born with this predisposition. Mana is one of the forces of nature. Magicians absorb it into their body and transform it into energy. They then manipulate this energy, interfering with the balance of nature. This is what magic is, it's just fantasy. But how do you know if a person is able to absorb mana or not? No special method is required over time. This ability becomes obvious. The sensations of mana are so strong that even a person with great endurance cannot ignore them. However, the girl felt absolutely nothing, and are there really no exceptions? Sometimes there are people who absorb only a tiny amount of mana, so there are exceptions. They exist, but this would mean that such a person has a minimum of talent for magic, that's how. Milady's question is resolved. Of course, Davian helped her a lot. Becoming a magician is really difficult. That's why the young man always has so much work. But if there were more people in the ministry, the work could be distributed. It's already so late, the girl has completely chatted with Davian. It's time for her to return to the estate. She was glad to see the young man without a specific reason. Let him not sit too long at his work. Reyra opened the door and immediately ran into a girl of incredible beauty. Wow, who is she? Hair the color of volcanic lava, ruby-colored piercing eyes, incredible beauty. The stranger also closely studied the Grand Duke's newly made wife. Why is this girl looking at Duchess Scarlet like that? Is that who she is or what? Something is wrong with the heroine. Why is the stranger drilling her with her gaze, as if she is already mentally dissecting her? What is Aegina doing here? The girl immediately smiled. Davian's little wife looks more modest than expected. What is this stranger talking about? It's time for Aegina to go. Davian is calling her, but they will definitely see each other again. What was that? Why were these two calling each other by their first names? What did it mean? More modest than expected. That is, she does not correspond to Davian, although this is true. And why did my soul suddenly feel so heavy? Reyra was having difficulty breathing. The Duchess managed to talk to my lord. Everything was fine, but then some girl with red hair entered the office. It was Mrs. Aegina. Milady Aegina Ruthenia joined the ministry quite recently and managed to pass all her exams with the highest score. So this girl is already quite popular, and they also say that she is a very old acquaintance of their Duke Scarlet, who said, "No, everything inside the girl broke down. Did they really have a connection? Wait, why is she so upset?" And what was Reyra thinking, of course? Such a beautiful young man would have a passion who, unlike herself, corresponds to Davian. Meanwhile, the young man himself was watching the Duchess's heavy thoughts. And Davian had a sweet little wife. How does Aegina even know who Reyra is to the Duke? What a strange name, but it suits her. Aegina never thought that she would catch him mentioning someone so affectionately in the Tower of the Mages. Davian was completely different. The Great Duke even refused the prestigious position of heir to the Tower of the Mages. That's why Aegina laughed so much when she learned that Davian had become the Empire's loyal dog. Let her already tell me why she came. I'm tired of her chatter. How impatient and rude. Aegina just wanted to discuss tomorrow's schedule. Tomorrow, the main character must attend the Thanksgiving ceremony. Davian is serious now. The invincible and powerful Duke is participating in such events. Of course, being Lady Reyra's husband, the young man was obliged to take part, which he said. Wait a minute! Aegina immediately burst out laughing. Just don't let Davian say he's fallen in love. Although no, it's simply impossible. This guy is not capable of truly loving someone. The day of the Thanksgiving ceremony has arrived. My lady looks simply stunning. She will outshine all the noble ladies. Absolutely right. Duchess Scarlet will simply have no equal at the ceremony. Well, unless that red-haired one is there. But the girl really likes to hear the words of the maids? Let them continue. The face of the real Ryra is really lovely. Besides, the pastel shades of today's outfit highlight the color of the eyes and skin, so no one can compare to her today, except for this guy. His beauty will always be unattainable. The main character was not very late, not at all. Why did Ryra wait for his appearance and wanted to show herself in this dress? The young couple's outfits were paired and suited them incredibly well. All eyes were focused only on them. Although everything here looks so luxurious, there is something to see, but at the same time they are the main interest of the public. There are so many people around, if Ryra is distracted, she can easily lose her husband in this hall. Here the main character put his hand on the Duchess's waist. What is Davion doing? To avoid losing each other among the guests, they need to stay close to each other. The girl's cheeks immediately flushed. She needed to control her flow of emotions. This guy was not for her. She needed to calm down quickly, otherwise the whole room would hear how hard her heart was beating next to Davion. And here's the newlywed couple, the Scarlets. His lordship is pleased to welcome them. The ruler was just looking for the Duke and Duchess of Scarlet among his guests. The young couple should have been the first to greet the son of the Empire. There is no need for that. A nasty guy already familiar to Ryra unceremoniously entered the conversation. Duke Ferris is pleased to welcome the Emperor and Empress, no doubt about it. His Highness did not pay attention to the arrival of Mr. Ferris. He had already arrived a long time ago. The Duke's eldest son bowed to the ruler. Their family was a little late as they wanted to arrive together. And this must be the youngest son of Milord Ferris. Stop, isn't this the same charming fellow from the library? Absolutely right, it's Jurisian. His face is impossible to mistake. His Majesty has learned that the youngest heir to the duchy has recently become a priest in the temple, and this sweet and good-natured guy is a continuation of this rotten old man. But Davion said that the Ferris couple was closely connected to the temple, so everything fits together. Here, Ryra and Jurisian's gazes met. Oh no, the young man recognized her too. How awkward. The main character immediately bowed to the Ferris family, which did not escape the attention of her husband. Ryra bowed only when she met the priest's gaze, which meant they knew each other. Awesome. Davion could be a great detective. But the heroine cannot tell him everything honestly. Then she will have to admit that she was looking for information about Christian. Nothing special. The young people just met by chance, that's all. The main character was about to say something when he was interrupted by a female voice. Oh no, she was the only one missing here. Ryra was so afraid of this, so afraid to recognize the looks of these two, to see something more in them. This means that Agena was also sent an invitation, and what's surprising about that, the girl is also connected to the palace. The main character looked at her rival with undisguised curiosity. Agena was glad to finally greet the Duchess. The magician's name is Agena Ruthenia. They already met in the Department of Magical Affairs. How can one forget that? But then the main character suddenly stood between the girls, and what was that all about? Agena has some business, or she doesn't know what to do with herself. Why be so abrupt right away? Well, okay, the girl really does have an urgent and important matter to ask the head of the ministry. They should talk in private. This is not a topic that should be discussed in public. The newly minted Mrs. Scarlet does not mind at all if her husband goes out with this girl. Milady Rhea has nothing to worry about. The young man will leave and return to her very quickly. Although there was a forced smile on the heroine's face, anxiety burned in her soul. And how can one compete with such a stately beauty? She is clearly an aristocrat, has extraordinary insight and intelligence, excellent manners, and also an interesting character. And in general, these two look simply mind-blowing together. It's infuriating. When novels describe the incredible and obvious compatibility of the main characters, it looks like this. Why does this depress Ryra so much? She will still return to her homeworld and will never be able to be with Davion. No matter how much she dreams about the main character, they are from different dimensions. Therefore, you just need to accept the new reality and come to terms with it. Then a familiar priest knocked on the window. The sweet young man pointed his finger at the summer garden of the imperial palace. He clearly wanted to talk. Well, why not? After all, the girl would only benefit from the company now. To avoid feeling so inferior and lonely, the lady is the wife of the great Duke of Scarlet. That's exactly it, and Jurisian is the youngest son of that pig from the tournament. Ryra couldn't reveal her identity earlier. Therefore, she asks the priest for forgiveness. She has nothing to apologize for. Then it is clear what kind of information Duchess Scarlet was looking for, since she is interested in that case. That's right, there's just no information about what happened. That's quite natural. Seeing the doubts and worries on his interlocutor's face, Eurytion smiled at her encouragingly. On the day when the father ordered his youngest son to become a priest, he was very afraid and doubted the correctness of this decision. Being so young and disrespectful, the youth never thought about their gods. However, now Eurytion feels that he is in his place, and the same will happen with Milady Scarlet at the right moment. It was after meeting her that the priest became convinced that their gods exist and everything was going according to their plan. Somehow Ryra doesn't understand anything. Someone just confessed their feelings to her or something. Didn't the Duchess know that she possessed holy powers, which is clearly not a matter of romantic sentiments? The main character watched the conversation between the two on the street closely. And why is Ryra talking to Faraz's youngest son in a secluded place? Thanks to the conversation with Eurytion, the girl was finally able to figure out one issue. It wasn't magic. This is a holy power, but why didn't the heroine notice anything at all? And according to the priest, he immediately felt her power as soon as she entered the archive. Having a special power does explain a lot, but it also adds new questions. But shouldn't holy power be more sublime and graceful? The girl was sure that it was just some kind of local magic, as the conversation with the priest went. And how does the handsome young man know about their conversation Davian saw Eurytion on the way here? What's wrong with the main character's face? Why is he so distant? The Duke had already told her earlier. He respects the Duchess's privacy. It's part of their shared marriage contract, but Ryra should think twice about her choice. Davian got it all wrong. She doesn't have that kind of relationship with that nasty old man's youngest son. The young people had indeed talked before, but the girl had no idea who he was. And anyway, who would talk here? It's Davian and Aegina who are like Mr. and Mrs. Perfect. It's Ryra who's angry here. Oh, look, she really blurted it out loud. Just like that, she showed her jealousy and feelings. That is, the Duchess has no right to claim Davian's attention. Aegina is just an old acquaintance from the Tower of Magicians. Aegina is carrying out a secret mission for the Tower, so the young man could not tell about it earlier. What a relief. That is, he doesn't like this beauty. That is, it doesn't concern Ryra at all. The Duke has no feelings for Aegina. The protagonist can describe in detail the entire spectrum of his indifference to Aegina. Ryra believes him. The young man extended his hand to his wife, in which case they would return to the hall together. This guy is just incredible. It's impossible to breathe and think around him. The whole world seems to freeze. And only these gloomy eyes and Davian's velvety voice. The Imperial Garden looks much more beautiful under the moon at night. These flowers have just bloomed, and they have such a sweet scent. So these flowers make Ryra happy. Well, she's not at the peak of her emotions, but they are definitely very beautiful. By the way, back then in the garden, the young people agreed to discuss what they both liked. Now is the best time for this. The girl really wants to know everything about Davian's interests. Of course, food comes first on the list of priorities. The heroine loves everything sour and juicy. The protagonist mentally analyzed what was said. Judging by the description, the lady loves tomatoes. Oh yes, Ryra loves tomatoes. And the girl simply adores all fluffy creatures. She loves all animals, but dogs most of all, which means Becky is lucky. The Duchess also likes to get up early in the morning and look at the dewdrops on the grass and tree leaves. I also like the ripples on the surface of the water. When you admire them, your soul becomes light. It seems that Ryra has become too carried away by her own interests. Now it is Davian's turn to talk about himself. The main character was silent for a long time and then asked what the word like meant. The young man is not sure of the correct definition of the word. It seems that he has not experienced this feeling and therefore cannot answer. To be honest, Davian didn't really care about his personal preferences and desires in life. How could that be? In that case, what a young man does when he gets upset or something doesn't work out for him, Davian does until he succeeds. Ryra forgot who she was talking to. Then she would describe her understanding of the word, like. The girl is also not sure if this is right, but for her this is something that can change her view of the world. Something that changes your views, preferences, and the very meaning of life. As if this feeling awakens something new in you. For example, something that didn't previously arouse much interest suddenly begins to seem special. It can be absolutely anything. It will stand out from everything else. Something that seems insignificant to other people takes on deep meaning for you. And you want to experience this feeling again and again. The main character's eyes immediately widened. What you like, you usually want to keep close, touch, admire, and enjoy it. And all this will mean what a person likes. This is how Ryra herself understands this word. But the girl thinks that most people will agree with her. That is the meaning of the word. The handsome young man thought about what was causing him such a feeling. He must definitely have such things. Absolutely everyone has them. It looks like what Davion likes is Ryra. The young man experiences everything listed above. When he looks at her, she truly has become special to him. Ryra stands out from the rest, like the brightest heart in the darkness.